Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, Parallel Deku. Back with another fanfiction. This is the series of What if Deku chose to break the bond? Now before starting, please give this video a like. And subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. I heard Bakugo and Kirishima are in love. But isn't Bakugo Izuku's soulmate? I heard he wants to cut it. These whispers surrounded me as I walked to my locker. I sighed, entering my combination while the glowing red string connecting me to Kaken grew shorter. He approached, stopping at the locker next to mine. "Bakugo!" Kirishima exclaimed, jumping into his arms and planting a kiss on him, elbowing me in the process. "Morning, beautiful," he replied with a smirk, taking Kirishima's hand. They brushed past me, and though I was used to it, a tear slipped down my cheek, which I quickly wiped away. The whispers intensified, and I felt as though I was drowning, being pulled into an inescapable darkness. But as long as Kaken was happy, maybe I could be too. Our soulmate string had appeared that fateful day when we were just kids. Flashback. Not all men are equal. I learned this when I stood up for a boy in kindergarten. I lay there on the floor, bruised and battered. As Kaken walked away with his gang of kindergarten delinquents, a blinding light flashed between me and my bully. The boy I protected stood frozen in shock. I shakily lifted my head from the ground, only to be met with a shocking sight. A red string. It was tied to my pinky, and with wide eyes, I slowly looked up to see who it led to. No, it can't be. Kaken? Flashback over. As the years passed, I realized how much I loved him. I adored every aspect of him, from his ruby red eyes to his intimidating smirk. Just thinking about him made me blush. But then the UA exams came around, and my faith in soulmates vanished in an instant. Flashback. Thank you for catching me. I smiled at the girl who helped me with her quirk. No problem, good luck on the exam, she replied, walking towards the entrance. I hope I still have time to go to the bathroom. I muttered, sprinting toward the restroom. As I entered, I sensed an unsettling vibe. I stepped further in, trying to figure out the feeling, when suddenly I saw him. Kaken. With a red-haired boy. The sight twisted my stomach and I felt nauseous. I love you, Kiri, he whispered, leaning in closer. I love you too, Bakugo, Kirishima replied shyly. I bolted out, covering my mouth, colliding with several people on my way. In that moment, I couldn't care less about who I bumped into. My stomach churned with disgust, and my mind felt completely blank. Everything felt empty, numb to any emotion. Even as tears streamed down my face and my heart ached with an unplaceable sting, I felt like an empty shell of a human. When the UA acceptance letter arrived, I smiled for my mother, but inside, I felt nothing, no happiness, no sadness, no anger. Just emptiness. Flashback over. Deku? Are you okay? Can you hear me? I shook my head and looked up. The school bell echoed through the now empty halls, signaling students to get to class. Geez, Deku, you really need to stop spacing out. We're starting to get worried about you. I felt like such a burden. Just smile and reassure her. That always works. I flashed her a big smile and laughed. Sorry, Uraraka, I haven't been sleeping well lately, so I've been spacing out a lot. Tell them not to worry about me. I don't want my friends to be concerned. When I said them, I meant Todoroki, Ida, and Uraraka. I reached into my locker to grab my English book and pencil before shutting it and following the red string on the floor to class. Kirishima's POV. As Bakugo and I walked down the hall, I noticed him staring blankly at the floor. He had been acting a bit distant lately. I kissed his cheek to get his attention and he smirked. Can't keep your lips off me, huh? I felt my cheeks heat up and looked away. What? It's not like that. Kiri, we've been dating since high school started. I'm pretty sure I know you well enough by now. I chuckled in defeat and sighed. You just seem a bit distant lately. Why is that? He took a moment to think before finally sighing and looking at me. Kiri, I read an article about people who cut their soulmate strings and retied them to new people, becoming soulmates again. I was just thinking, what if I cut my string with Deku? Bakugo's POV. I could see Kirishima's face light up, and he smiled at me brightly. Wow. You would do that for me? But isn't there a downside or something? He squeezed me tightly and I kissed his forehead. No, there isn't. Don't worry about it. Come on, the bell already rang. Let's get to class. The thing is, there was a downside. One that had been weighing on my mind all week. No scientist in all of Japan could figure it out. When the soulmate string was cut and retied, it would continue to glow. But the person whose string was left cut. I wrapped and unwrapped the red string around my finger while trying my best to focus on present mix words. My pencil tapped against my notebook without me even realizing it as I bit my lip in confusion. I was reading every word on the board and hearing every word that came out of his mouth, but I understood none of it. Isn't there a saying for that? Like, the words go in one ear and out the other? I don't know, but it's kind of like that. Midoriya. Stop mumbling. If you aren't going to be focused in my class, you should leave, you dig. I slowly nodded my head and tried once again to focus, but nothing seemed to be working. After Kaken started talking to Kirishima this morning, I got this bad feeling in my gut. Something bad was going to happen, but what? What was going on with Deku? He never spaced out during classes. Why should I care anyway? I tried to shake the thought from my head. Even though I despise him, he's always there in the back of my mind. He has been since kindergarten. That demon Deku, get out of my head. F off already. My voice echoed in the room, and I could feel the blank stares from every direction. Present Mike stared at me, mouth agape. Did I say that out loud? Whatever, I didn't care anymore. I turned around and saw Deku tearing up as he abruptly ran out of the room, wiping his eyes on his sleeve. That was harsh, Bakugo, I heard someone say. Yeah, you should apologize. I didn't even do anything. I growled. Go apologize, Round-Faced said with a serious expression. Fine. I shouted, reluctantly leaving the classroom and shoving my hands into my pockets. So there I sat in my favorite spot in the whole school, crying like a baby. Again. I was on the roof, curled up in a ball, leaning against a large pipe. The view from up here usually helped calm me down, but today it just wasn't working. Large tears rolled down my face as I hiccuped and tried to wipe them away. For some reason, today I just snapped. I'm used to Kaken yelling at me that I'm annoying or that I should disappear, but today it hurt more than usual. Maybe it was because it didn't sound like anger. It sounded like pure frustration and pain, like I was hurting him by existing. That saddened me more than any harsh words. I'm hurting the one I care about by simply living. Maybe if I walked up to the railing and started to lean over the edge, the breeze lifting my green curls away from my puffy red eyes. I should be careful, a fall from this height could be dangerous. I leaned over it even more. Yes, it would be dangerous. Where is that nerd? I cursed into the empty hall and kicked a random locker door. No matter where I looked, I couldn't find him. There was only one spot I hadn't checked. His favorite place in every school we've ever attended together. Flashback. I ran through the abandoned hallways of my middle school. Everyone had gone home already, and I was grabbing my bag from my locker when a note fell out. Hey Kaken, it's Izuku. I feel like all I do is hurt you and annoy you, so I think it would be best if I were gone. Goodbye Kaken. I hope you can find someone who makes you happier than I ever could. As I read the note, I felt my heart sink. My legs started to ache as I ran up the many flights of stairs, but I had to make sure he was safe. Because I didn't want to regret it. I finally made it to the double doors that read, "Emergency Exit," in glowing red text. Immediately, I recognized the sobs coming from the other side of the rooftop. Deku's fluffy green hair rustled in the wind. When he heard the door open, he turned around. His eyes were pink and puffy from crying. He smiled and waved. Before I could even say anything, he started to take off his shoes. I didn't have time to think, I had to be a hero. I sprinted towards him as he started to lift his leg over the railing. I yanked his arm back, and we both fell to the rooftop floor. He curled into a ball but made no sounds. I'm sorry, I whispered. Immediately, he started to cry. I tightly wrapped my arms around him and began to slide his soft, green hair. It's okay, Izuku. It's okay. Don't cry. He hiccuped and started to apologize repeatedly. Why are you apologizing? There's no need to do that. I failed, Kaken. I failed to make you happy. I'm a failure. Little did I know how those words would haunt me for the rest of my life. He felt like a failure because of me. Flashback over. Before I knew it, I was sprinting up the stairs to the roof. My legs burned, but I paid no mind to them. I burst through the roof doors, and there he stood, one leg over the railing. It was almost like déjà vu. He turned around, but this time there were no tears. His face was completely blank. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my heart. My head started to throb, and I fell to the floor. Footsteps came running towards me. Kaken, are you okay? Kaken, I'm sorry. I could feel myself being lifted off the floor, but everything was a blur. I started to close my eyes and slowly drifted off into sleep. Last night, I had a dream. More like a nightmare, actually. I was surrounded by complete darkness, but every time I turned, I saw Kaken and Kirishima together, sharing a moment that felt too NTMT. Tears welled in my eyes, but I fought them back. That is, until they turned to face me. Kaken glared at me, a smirk on his face. I'll never love you, Deku. I don't think anyone will ever love you. Who in their right mind would want you? He spat, and both he and Kirishima faded into the shadows. The words echoed in my mind, ringing painfully until I woke up in a cold sweat. My red string was tangled around me. I must have moved around a lot in my sleep. Oddly, my room didn't have its usual morning glow. I gingerly placed my feet on the unusually cold floor and moved to open my curtains. Outside was pitch black, with small stars peeking through the dark sky. It was still nighttime, huh? I picked up my phone and plopped down on my bed. Shielding my eyes from the bright light, I squinted to see the time. 1:38 a.m.? I slammed my phone down onto my bed and threw myself back onto the pillow. For hours, I tried to sleep, tossing and turning. But every time I closed my eyes, my dream replayed in my head. That's it. I've had it with this stupid string. I opened the window and climbed down the side of my house. I didn't care if I faded into nothing. It was better than being Kaken's soulmate. What am I doing? It was 3:40 a.m., and I was lying on the floor in the dark, staring at my open window. I felt an odd compulsion to keep it open and stay awake, as if I was waiting for something. I couldn't let myself fall asleep. Suddenly, my string began to move toward the window, glowing brighter than usual. A green tuft of hair popped up from outside. There was only one person with that broccoli hair. Deku? What the heck? I sat up, confused. Shut up, Kaken, he snapped, climbing into my room. I widened my eyes in shock. Deku had never spoken to me like that, especially not with that tone. What did you just? I'm sorry, Kaken, that was mean. I just can't stand you, he whispered, sitting next to me. What was going on with him? I wanted to cuss him out, but all I could manage was, No, that's not. I didn't mean it like that. I came to tell you that I don't want to be your soulmate anymore. I stared at the wooden floorboards, avoiding his gaze. I could feel his intense stare, but I still didn't look up. After a few minutes of silence, I finally forced myself to meet his eyes. His expression was blank, but I could tell he was confused. I let out a shaky breath and continued. I also came here to tell you that Kirishima and Denki cut their string. Kaken looked even more puzzled. But most importantly, I came to do this. I pulled scissors from my back pocket and reached for our string. Just before I could cut it, Kaken tackled me, pinning my wrists above my head. You idiot! If you do that, you'll disappear, he shouted, fear and sadness in his voice. Where is your head at, Deku? You're going to get yourself hurt. I tried to catch my breath, my chest heaving as I kept Deku pinned to the floor. His eyes began to well with tears, and his brows furrowed in frustration. I know that, Kaken. I was taken aback once again. I can't stand another day as your soulmate. I love how happy you are with Kirishima until I remember. This stupid string around my finger. Every time you are together, my heart pounds and my head hurts, and I don't know what else to do, Kaken. Tears streamed down his freckled face, and his voice cracked with raw emotion. I'm desperate, Kaken. So please. Please let me do this. I loosened my grip on his wrists and sat up, freeing him. He sat up silently and reached for our string. Holding the scissors up to it, he stared at it for what felt like an eternity. Finally, he looked up at me, tears still falling down his cheeks. He leaned towards me, pressing our foreheads together, scissors and string still in hand. I'm doing this because I love you, Kaken. And I want you to be happy in your future. Even if it means I won't be in it. Suddenly, our lips brushed together. I closed my eyes, and a tear fell silently down my cheek. It was brief, but the warmth lingered. He smiled, sniffling, and hugged me tightly until I heard the snip of scissors cutting the string behind me. I cut the string, and the red glow vanished from both ends. Suddenly, a sharp pain pierced my heart. I tried to stand up but staggered and fell to the floor. I heard Kaken asking if I was okay, but his voice was muffled. Sure, I had broken bones and suffered cuts before, but the pain I felt now made those injuries seem minor. I tried to scream, but my lungs burned, preventing me from doing so. All I could do was cry and claw at my heart until the sweet release of unconsciousness took me away from the suffering. Deku! Deku, what's wrong? He fell to the floor, clawing at his chest and crying. He opened his mouth to scream, but nothing came out. When he looked at me, the pure agony in his emerald eyes was overwhelming. After what felt like an eternity, he passed out. I picked him up and laid him gently on my bed. What just happened? I have no experience with this kind of stuff, but if Kiri cut his string, maybe he knows something. I picked up my phone and opened my contacts, scrolling until I found his name. Calling Babe Red Heart Shark. The phone rang a few times before Kiri picked up. Hey babe, what's up? I need to ask you something. Sure, what is it? When you and Denki cut your string, did you feel pain? No. Cutting your string shouldn't be painful. Hold on, I'm Googling it. I waited a few seconds before he started to talk again. I've got it. When a soulmate is suffering from one-sided love and cuts their string, the pain can feel almost like death. Symptoms include a burning sensation in the lungs, a sharp pain in the heart, and a dulling of basic senses. Geez, that sounds so painful. I would hate to go through that. I widened my eyes at every symptom. A sharp pain in the heart? A burning sensation in the lungs? They even said it can feel like death. Thanks, babe. Can you come over? I want to talk to you about something. Sure, I'll be over in 10. I placed the phone back on my bedside table and found myself looking at Deku. His face was stained with tears, and his brow was furrowed in distress. I'm sorry, Izuku. I'm so sorry. Chapter End. Kirishima's POV. Why is Izuku in Bakugo's room? I silently pondered on Bakugo's doorstep. Yes, I was here the whole time. I was planning to surprise him so we could hang out together since he was active on Instagram, so I knew he was awake. But then, why did he kiss Izuku? I watched as Izuku climbed into his window from behind a wall. I was down the street from Bakugo's house at the time. I continued to walk, but my steady pace soon morphed into a sprint. I had a bad feeling about this. I arrived, my chest heaving with every breath. My eyes opened in shock as I stared at the scene through the window. Izuku was kissing my boyfriend. No. Do not get jealous. That's not the manly thing to do. I took a deep breath and started to walk away. I'll just confront him tomorrow. If I do it right now, I might let my emotions spill out. Deku? Deku, what's wrong? I whipped my head around, and the sound of Bakugo's voice stopped me. The street was dead silent. That is, until my phone rang. I jumped at the loud ringtone and fell to the floor, cracking my phone screen slightly. Sheet, I whispered, recovering from the fall. Babe Redheart, collision shown on my broken phone screen. Why is he calling me? To be honest, I didn't really want to talk to him, but I reluctantly picked up. Hey babe, what's up? I said, acting as normal as possible. I need to ask you something. As soon as I heard his voice, butterflies flapped frantically in my stomach. His voice alone could make me blush. Even if I tried to be mad, his voice just lulled me into a place of happiness and security. Forgetting why I was mad, we continued to talk. Sure, what is it? When you and Denki cut your string, did you feel pain? Pain? Why would I feel pain after cutting my string? No. Cutting your string shouldn't be painful. Hold on, I'm Googling it. I opened my browser and entered the search bar. Pain after cutting soul string. I tapped search and started to read the first article that came up. Pain after cutting soul string? This is a case of one-sided love. Scientists say, I've got it. When a soulmate is suffering from one-sided love and cuts their string, the pain can feel almost like death. Symptoms include a burning sensation in the lungs, a sharp pain in the heart, and a dulling of basic senses. Geez, that sounds so painful. I would hate to go through that. Thanks, babe. Can you come over? I want to talk to you about something. I didn't really want to come over, but he sounded distressed and needed help. After all, the Great King Explosion murder never stutters. Sure, I'll be over in 10. I hung up and slumped against a wall. Questions flooded my mind. Why was he asking about that? Did they cut their string? Does Bakugo want to tie ours together? Will I get a new soulmate? Where's Midoriya? I heard someone shout. He disappeared, another voice called out. Kirishima walked in next to me, and my soul string followed his movements. Kirishima was my soulmate. There was a visible knot in the center of our string. We cut it. It's like he disappeared into thin air. Beach shouted. Into thin air. Suddenly, I found myself on the roof again. There he stood. His green hair swayed in the wind, and his soul string waved too, but it had turned gray and lost its glow. Half of his body was fading, slipping away into nothing. He turned around and smiled a genuine smile. Hello, Kaken, he waved, beckoning me to come stand next to him. He leaned his arms against the railing and looked out into the distance. I'm glad I'll get to be with you in my final moments, Kaken. I felt tears welling up, but words wouldn't come out. I reached for his hand and held it tight, hoping it would stop him from disappearing. I love you, Kaken. His words became a distant echo as he transformed into cherry blossom petals, swept away by the wind. Izu! I shouted as I abruptly sat up in bed. Soft pink light filtered through the white curtains as the sun set behind them. The nurse's office. Where is Deku? I frantically looked for my phone and tried to reach for it when I noticed a mop of messy green curls resting on my bedside. Soft snores came from him. I chuckled and reached out to ruffle his hair. It was just as soft as it had been in middle school. Hey nerd, wake up. He drowsily lifted his head and rubbed his eyes. Oh hey, Kaken. Kaken, you're awake. Oh thank goodness. I was so worried, I thought. I'm such a failure, aren't I? His lips started to quiver, and tears suddenly streamed down his face. He leaned his head on my shoulder and began to sob. I moved my arms to wrap around him, and he flinched, thinking I would hit him. Instead, I embraced him warmly, and he seemed to melt into my touch. A few minutes later, he stopped hiccuping and looked up at me with teary eyes. I'm sorry, Kaken, but I can't stand to see you anymore. He snatched his bag before running out of the nurse's office. Izuku's POV. I ran and ran. Tears filled my eyes, but I wiped them away. I couldn't believe it. After years of trying to stop loving him, just when I thought I had forgotten about my feelings for him, I had fallen for him all over again. Bakugo's POV. I sighed and sat down on the side of the bed, careful not to disturb Izuku. I could tell when Kiri had something on his mind, and when we talked on the phone, I could hear sadness behind his act. Why was he sad? I turned back to the sleeping boy lying on my bed. He was sweating and his brows were furrowed. Panicking, I ran down to the kitchen for a wet rag. I stood behind the sink, my hands tightly gripping a cold rag under the running water. The moonlight shining through the window cast a silhouette on the living room floor. The spiked hair was unmistakable. Kirishima was here, but the question was, why didn't he just come in? I texted him, letting him know I'd leave the door unlocked for when he got here, and he read it, so why wouldn't he come in? I opened the door slightly, but he still didn't seem to notice. Kiri. Izuku's POV. I was on the roof again, looking out at the view. My tears floated up into the sky, and each step felt light. As I reached the edge, an angelic figure floated down and stood next to me. Its hair was white as snow, and its dress was long, swaying like ocean waves. "What do you wish for, Izuku?" Its voice sounded like wind chimes and felt almost like a lullaby. I wish for Kaken to be happy." The figure looked at me, then back out into the distance. "Are you sure?" I stayed silent, and the figure sighed, walking behind me. "Oi, nerd." I turned around so fast I surely got whiplash. "What if I told you this? The only way I'll ever be happy is if you're gone." The world darkened around me, leaving only Kaken, me, and the ledge of the roof visible. "You know, you're such a burden, Deku. I can't be happy with you around. So, what will you do now?" Suddenly, the image of Kaken shattered like glass into shards and disappeared into the dark void. All that was left was me and the ledge. Just me and the ledge. I shot up with a jolt and clutched the unfamiliar bed like my life depended on it. My chest heaved up and down, and my hair stuck uncomfortably to my sweaty forehead. I swiped it away with my arm and spotted the open window. Just me and the ledge. "You want to tie our strings together?" I recognized Kirishima's voice downstairs and looked back at the window. Just me and the ledge. I walked up to the window, letting the cool air hit my sweaty face. The dim moonlight lit up the street, accompanied by a few street lamps. Just you and the ledge. I shook my head as if shooing the thought away and carefully climbed down the side of the house before running home, tears rolling down my face. Just me and the ledge. "If you wanted to tie our strings together, why did you kiss Midoriya?" He spat the name as if it were bitter on his tongue. It was just 5 minutes before my first class, and last night when I asked him if we could tie our strings. Well, let's just say things didn't go according to plan. Bakugo sat next to Kirishima on his front porch, momentarily forgetting that Izuku was even at his house. Kirishima looked over, smiling, but the smile didn't seem genuine. It was masking anger and confusion. "What's wrong, Kiri?" Bakugo asked, concern creeping into his voice. Kirishima remained silent for a moment, gazing up at the sky. Bakugo slipped his arm around the redhead's waist and scooted closer. "Hey, whatever it is, I'm here for you, Kiri." Kirishima flinched at the endearing nickname but didn't dare let a word slip from his mouth. Instead, he lowered his head, hiding his expression from Bakugo. The truth was he was struggling to hold back tears. He couldn't let his emotions escape, someone might get hurt if he did. But when Bakugo whispered in his ear, he couldn't help it. "Kiri, I want to tie our strings together." Kirishima started to tremble, both joy and anger crashing over him like a tidal wave. "You want to tie our strings together?" he shouted, loud enough to be heard down the empty street. Bakugo looked up, smirking, expecting Kirishima to be blushing, but to his confusion, Kirishima looked furious. "Kiri? Is something wrong?" "Shut up!" Kirishima interrupted, wiping his tears before running away. He ran from his anger, his sadness, his jealousy, and his feelings. Kirishima gritted his teeth and slammed the door to his house shut, hoping that if he distracted himself from his boyfriend's backstabbing, infuriatingly handsome face, the blush on his cheeks would fade. That's how I found myself here, watching Kirishima walk away down the hall as the unsettling silence was soon replaced with the whispers of students by their lockers. It was almost amusing how they were like sharks feeding off drama, as if they lived for it. The students who lingered in the hallways at this time thrived on breakups, fights, and confession letters falling out of lockers. And right now, I just happened to be the target of their endless whispers. Their stares burned into my back and I hated it. "What are you all looking at?" I shouted, slamming my locker shut and marching off to English class. "Them here. Them here. Them." I slammed my fist onto the all-might alarm clock on my bedside table and sighed. Birds chirped happily outside, and I smiled. At least someone was having a good morning. I groggily sat up, stretched my arms, and then lay back down. My chest stung with a familiar ache. Realizing I wasn't tangled with red string like usual, the events of last night rushed back to me. I really did that? I cut our string? I yanked at my hair, worrisome thoughts screaming in my head. Why did you do that? What have you done? You're going to regret this. But suddenly, a new voice entered my mind. It was smooth and endearing, almost melodic, but it felt like daggers. You should regret it. Kaken would be better off without you. He must be so relieved that you're gone. You have no place in this world. You're just a burden. Nobody loves you. Izuku, honey, come down for breakfast. You're going to be late for school. My mother's voice snapped me out of my dark thoughts. I quickly got dressed, hoping that if I stayed busy, the voice wouldn't return. I dashed down the stairs, my uniform jacket half on and my tie messily done. My mother gasped, and I tilted my head in confusion. Is something wrong, Mom? She just stared at me with worried eyes. I followed her gaze to the short string dragging behind me. Oh, I cut it. She let out a shaky breath and walked up to me, gently placing a soft hand on my cheek. I only want you to remember one thing, Izuku. Don't trust the lady in white, no matter how reassuring or kind she sounds. Do not listen to anything she says. I nodded and checked the clock. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, Mom, I have to run. See you later. As I watched his fluffy mop of hair bounce down the sidewalk, I couldn't help but let a tear slide down my cheek. Unwanted memories flooded back to me. I can't let it happen again, I just can't. I can't lose another person to the lady in white. Not again. I ran into the school, barely making it on time with about 5 minutes left to get to my English class. I dashed to my locker, almost tripping over my untied shoelaces, when I heard loud yelling coming from the other side of the lockers. Two familiar voices were shouting at the top of their lungs, and my curiosity got the better of me. I peeked around the wall of lockers to see Bakugo leaning against them while Kirishima stood in front of him, tears threatening to spill from his eyes. If you wanted to tie our strings together, why did you kiss Midoriya? Kirishima exclaimed, walking away with his half of the string dragging behind him as he headed to his class. Bakugo remained silent for a moment before suddenly coming to life and slamming his locker shut. What are you all looking at? He shouted. I let out a small squeak and hurried to class, not forgetting to grab my English notebook first. I was kicking my feet back and forth while tapping my pen against the desk when it happened. I was writing notes, concentrating hard as usual, when my pen slipped from my fingers. I didn't look down for fear of missing something on the board, so I blindly reached for where it should have fallen. But instead of feeling the table, my fingers touched nothing. Strange. Reluctantly, I looked down and gasped. The tips of my fingers were gone. I rubbed my eyes, hoping it was just a trick of the light, but my fingertips were still missing, fading into thin air. Panic surged through me, but I managed to put on a calm face and raised my other hand. Mike-sensei? May I use the restroom? Sure, but get back soon, you dig? He replied. I nodded and rushed to the bathroom, gripping my stomach with my left hand, which hadn't faded. What was wrong with me? As I ran, the red cross on the nurse's office caught my eye. I slowed to a halt and changed course, entering the nurse's office instead. Oh boy, here we go again. What's wrong now, Midoriya? Recovery girl chuckled as she got up from her chair and escorted me to a medical bed. Oh, I wanted to ask you about something. I pulled up my uniform sleeve, revealing my fading fingers. Recovery girl let out a small gasp but soon regained her usual calm demeanor. Midoriya, did you cut your soul string? I nodded, still confused until it clicked. I'm fading because I cut the string. I was well aware of the dangers of cutting a soul string, so I had brought this upon myself. I had no one to blame but myself, and I would have to deal with it alone. How long do I have to? Live? Recovery girl looked down, seemingly avoiding eye contact. That I cannot say. The speed of fading can vary depending on the type of relationship you have with your ex-soulmate. I nodded and thanked her before starting my walk back to class. What would I tell my mom? Don't tell her at all. The voice inside my head sprang to life, pouncing on me at my most vulnerable moment. Don't be a burden to her, just leave her oblivious. I guess the voice was right. I would just be a burden on my mom if I told her. Suddenly, a thought hit me like a truck. If I'm fading without a soulmate, doesn't that mean Kaken is too? If Kirishima and Kaken don't tie their strings, they'll both fade into nothing, like me. An all too familiar feeling of dread tugged at my heart. I couldn't let that happen to them, I just couldn't. I looked down at the floor, thinking of ways to get them to tie their strings together. Maybe I could tell them to? No, they wouldn't listen to someone like me. Maybe. Oof. I bumped into a tall, muscular guy exiting the bathroom, and we both fell to the floor. I'm so sorry. I wasn't paying attention, I nervously stuttered, bowing my head in apology. No need to apologize. Sorry that I owe. It's you. My stomach churned when he realized who I was. The word you was said with a hint of disdain. I slowly lifted my head to meet the red, angry eyes of Kirishima. This is my chance. I told myself, starting to think of a way to ask him to tie his soul string with Kaken's. But then I realized why he was angry. He had seen me kiss his boyfriend, that was why they weren't soulmates yet. That's right, it's all your fault, Izuku. The voice hissed in my mind, somehow still sounding sweet, like a child scolding you. Kirishima, hear me out, okay? What is there to hear, huh? My boyfriend cheated on me, he shouted, tears welling in his eyes. It was me who kissed him. Think nothing of it. He still hates me, that's why our string is cut, okay? That's why it hurt when we cut it. Because I was experiencing one. Sided. Meaning he didn't love me. He never loved me. After hastily wiping my tears away, I continued, Kirishima. He loves you and you alone. Please, go tie your strings before it's too late and you both fade. The redhead stayed silent, looking down at his feet. He walked past me, bumping my shoulder on his way back to class. Thank you, Midoriya. What is taking Deku so long? There are only 30 minutes left in class. Oh, congrats, you too. You guys are so cute together. I turned around, ready to tell everyone to be quiet, but then I saw the familiar spiky hair. Denki and Soooo were holding hands, their red strings intertwined. I had to admit, they made a really cute couple. Not that I cared or anything. Hee-yee-yee, don't interrupt my English class, ya dig? Present Mike shouted, his voice booming through the room. Pikachu and Soy Sauce sat in their seats, gazing at each other with huge smiles and bright red cheeks. When I finally arrived in class, I apologized to present Mike and explained that I had been at the nurse's office. I noticed Soooo and Denki had tied their strings together, so I congratulated them on my way to my seat and settled in, staring out the window. There was no point in paying attention now since I had missed most of the lesson. I would just have to catch up with one of my friends later. Your friends don't want to talk to you, they all hate you. Don't trust them. That's not true. But what if it is? What if they are only your friends out of pity because they think you're pathetic? It's a possibility. Distance yourself from them. Don't trust a word they say. Distance myself. Don't trust. Liars, haters, fools. For once, I thought the voice was right. My friends weren't actually friends at all. I couldn't believe I had let them fool me for so long. They were all liars. Liars who pitied me. I wouldn't let them pity me anymore. Don't let them pity you, Midoriya. Oh, I won't. Never again. The lunch bell echoed through the hallway, followed by a rush of hungry students. I joined the crowd, getting pushed along until I finally made it to the lunch tables. Hey Deku, let's go sit at our usual table. Uraraka's cheerful voice rang out. Her voice was grating. Yeah, you're right. She's fake. A phony. Don't let them deceive you, Midoriya. I won't. No thanks. I'd rather be alone, I said sharply, turning away from the cafeteria and into the empty hallway, which only had a few stragglers. I ducked behind a locker, the voice in my head quieting down. Listen, Bakugo, I'm really sorry. I completely overreacted and I really love you. Bakugo sighed and turned to Kirishima, rolling his eyes. I love you too, Ige. Kirishima smiled, a few tears welling up in his eyes. Their lips met in a gentle yet meaningful kiss. They slowly lifted their cut strings to each other, sharing a knowing smile. Bakugo handed his string to Kirishima, nodding in permission to tie them together. Kirishima struggled for a moment to tie the two thin red strings, but soon he figured it out. With one swift tug, the soul string regained its brilliant red glow. Suddenly, I felt a familiar sting in my heart return, sharper than before. The pain intensified, and I grasped the locker for support, slowly sliding to the floor as tears filled my eyes. There I sat, leaning against the locker, watching as the love of my life fell for someone else. But at least Kaken is happy. I jolted awake at the sound of the school bell ringing. Chairs and desks scraped against the floor as students rushed out of the classroom. "Wait!" A bubbly voice shouted from the front of the room. Her black ponytail was unmistakable. "I am hosting a slumber party at my house tonight, and everyone in Class 1A is invited." The classroom burst into cheers around me. Excited girls talked about matching pajamas, while the boys exchanged glances, clearly intrigued by the idea. Momo turned to me, her expression serious. "Midoriya, I need to ask you a favor." "What is it, Momo?" I replied, curious. "I need you to flirt with Todoroki." "Oh, okay." "What?" "Hey, are you going to the party tonight?" Kirishima asked, grabbing a flyer off the teacher's desk and handing it to me. "Momo's slumber party. Momo's house, Money Street, 91691 at 9 p.m. tonight. Bring toothbrush, pajamas, and a big appetite. Also, anything else you want to bring. You will sleep in rooms with one other person. You may request who you want to sleep with, but your spot with that person is not guaranteed. See you tonight." Man, she really went all out, huh? I rolled my eyes, imagining how much time she probably spent planning this. "Yeah. Wanna sleep with me?" Kirishima asked, his face turning slightly red as he realized how that sounded. "Wait, no, wait." I pulled him close, teasing him. "See you tonight, shitty hair. I'll pay you well, I just need you to flirt with him tonight." Momo's voice was pleading. What? Like a? I widened my eyes, flailing my arms around. "I'm sorry, I'm not explaining this well. Let me try again." She took a breath, regaining her composure. "I have this feeling that Todoroki might not be loyal. Even if we tied our strings together, I still think he might cheat on me, and I also have a feeling that what? That he might like you." Once again, my eyes widened in shock. I shook my head rapidly. "No way. He would never like me like that. We are just friends, right? Best friends. Why would he even like me? I just have a feeling. I will pay you, but I need you to flirt with him tonight to see if he is loyal. Can you please do this for me, Midoriya? I'm begging you." "I'll do it, Momo. For a friend." With one final goodbye, Kirishima and I started walking down separate paths to our houses. Something felt off. I couldn't quite put my finger on it, but something just felt wrong. It was annoying. All day, I had this strange feeling in my gut, telling me something was off. But of course, I just told it to quiet down. "Watch where you're going," I exclaimed as I stumbled. "Sorry, Kaken." I looked up to see Deku reaching out a hand to help me up. I slapped his hand away, frustration bubbling inside me. "Stay away from me. Don't touch me." I shot up and ran to my house, not even giving Deku a second glance. What was wrong with me? Why did I always feel this way around him? And there it was again, the darkness. That coldness wrapping around me like an icy hand, tightening its grip and making it harder to breathe. Each icy breath felt like daggers down my throat. "Why, Kaken? Why are you like this? Why am I like this? Why can't I just let you go? Why does a part of me still cling to distant memories of you? Why do I struggle to convince myself that I don't love you anymore? Just find a way to release the darkness, Izuku." The voice whispered in my head, urging me to let go. "How do I do that?" "Cut it. Make an exit for the darkness, Izuku. Do it now." Tears rolled down my cheeks as I stared blankly at where my childhood friend had been standing. Time had passed so quickly while I spoke to the voice in my head, and the sun had begun to set. I sighed, realizing it was time to head home. As I walked, I kept my gaze fixed on the ground. The street was silent now, with only the sound of my footsteps echoing against the concrete. Suddenly, a loud voice startled me from my thoughts. "You can call me Ray." "Mom? I'm home," I called out as I closed the door behind me and set my school bag on the floor. Hi, honey. Her cheerful voice was like music to my ears. I untied my shoes and kicked them off, greeting my mom with a warm hug. How was your day, sweetie? She asked as she ushered me to sit on the couch with her. It was good, how about you? I replied, forcing a smile. It was nice. Anyway, I have something I wanted to ask you. What is it, Mom? Her smile faded slightly as she took a deep breath. Have you spoken to the lady in white recently? Oh, no. I felt a pang of guilt as I answered. She frowned, seemingly unsatisfied with my response. Are you sure? Yeah, of course, Mom. I could never lie to you. I smiled my biggest smile, and she returned it. Oh, Mom, I have to ask you about something too. Sure. What is it? Can I go to a slumber party tonight? Outside Kirishima's house, I waited for him to answer my call. The phone clicked as he picked up. Hey, hold on, I'll be out in a minute. I just have to grab my toothbrush real quick. I smiled at his excited voice. Sure, just don't keep me waiting too long. I could hear him trip over something on the floor. Ouch! I rolled my eyes and laughed. He huffed and ended the call before bursting out of his front door, looking like he had been running around. His hair was messy, and his clothes were disheveled. Ready to go? I asked, fixing his hair with my hand. Yup. He smiled and grabbed my hand, pulling me down the sidewalk. Momo had told me she would call before the party started about payment. I insisted there was no need, but she insisted otherwise. Just then my phone buzzed. Hello. Hey, it's Momo. How did you get my number? That's not important. The important thing is your payment. But before we talk about that, I have to ask you. Do you still like Bakugo? What? Who told you that? Also, I told you I don't need payment. And I'm paying you whether you want me to or not. Well, but not too much money, okay? Money? No, I have something better planned. What is it? I can't tell you yet, but it will happen sometime during the party. Wait, what? What's going to happen? Momo. Beep. She hung up on me. I sighed and continued my walk to Momo's house, anticipation growing with each step. She said she had something planned. But what? And why ask about Kaken? Oh no, what if Kaken found out I still liked him? What if he was disgusted and didn't want to be near me? The familiar darkness began to wrap around me, clouding my thoughts. The icy feeling in my lungs returned, just like before. Why couldn't this stop? What if Kaken hated me even more now? What if he told Kirishima? What if the whole class knew? Would they think I was disgusting? Rei's voice began to sing in my head, soothing my nerves. Let the darkness out. The melody was sweet, almost like a lullaby. I thought maybe I would try to let the darkness out. Soon enough, I arrived at Momo's house, which was more like a mansion. My mouth gaped as I walked down the stone path leading to her front door. The security gate was wide open, and balloons were strung to it. Welcome, Midoriya. Momo's bubbly voice greeted me as Jiru, Uraraka, and Mina ushered me inside to the dining hall. The massive table was lit by chandeliers and set with fabric napkins and at least 5 different-sized forks. All of Class 1A was seated around the table except for the newest couple, Kirishima and Bakugo. My stomach lurched at the sight of them together, but I swallowed the urge to be sick and smiled, thanking Momo for the party. She seated me next to a certain guy with heterochromatic eyes and half hair and nodded, signaling me to execute our plan. I nodded back and gave a quick thumbs up before turning to Todoroki. Hey, Todoroki. Hey, Midoriya. You look. I leaned in, whispering in his ear, great as always. I leaned back to see him smirking, a rare sight when I usually saw him with a blank expression. I internally frowned, hoping he would find happiness with Momo. They seemed like a perfect match. Oh, Bakugo and Kirishima. Welcome, come on in. I'll show you to your seats. Bakugo and Kirishima walked in hand, a blush on their faces. A tear welled in my eye, but I quickly swiped it away before anyone could see. Momo sat them next to each other and announced, I hope everyone is hungry because dinner is served. Lines of waiters stepped through the door, laying out platters of food. Oohs and ahs filled the room as we all raised our glasses. To class 1A. To class 1A. Momo said all our glasses were filled with soda, but mine tasted a bit off. Well, I continued to drink glass after glass while flirting with Todoroki. You know Todoroki? I never noticed how sharp your jawline was, I said, tracing my finger along it. His smirk only grew larger. Slowly, Todoroki's face began to blur, but I dismissed it as just the lighting. You know, Midoriya, I've always had a crush on you, he cooed into my ear. I frowned and pushed him away. Bad Shoto, remember you have a girlfriend? I tried to walk away, but he pulled me back into my seat. Oh no, you're the one being bad. You drank too much, didn't you? No, it was just a little bit of soda. I protested, feeling the warmth of embarrassment rise within me. He chuckled, sliding his hand down my thigh under the table. I squirmed as he got closer, feeling uncomfortable. Stop, Shoto, I stammered. He just laughed and continued, and I felt tears welling up in my eyes. Was I in danger? Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. All right, it's time for some party games. Everyone started to stand up, and Todoroki let out an annoyed sigh before following the crowd. I stood up shortly after, feeling a bit unsteady. Had my drink been tampered with? I had never had alcohol before. How much had I even consumed? I wobbled behind, using chairs and shelves to steady myself. We all ended up in a large, elegant room. Some sat on the carpet, while others took seats in chairs. I settled on the carpet with Momo on my left and Bakugo on my right. Okay, everyone, what do you want to play? There was a moment of silence before Mina shouted, Truth or Dare? Bakugo's POV. Everyone gathered on the carpet while Mina produced a glass bottle. This is so ridiculous. I glanced around. To my left, Kiri was chatting with Denki. To my right, Deku looked off. Something seemed wrong. His face was flushed even though it wasn't warm in the room, and his eyes kept drooping before snapping wide open again. What was going on with him? He almost looked. It landed on Kaminari. Mina exclaimed. Truth or dare? Dare, I guess. Denki replied hesitantly. I dare you to give Kirishima a hickey. Mina declared. Denki jumped back, a deep blush spreading across his face. What? You heard me, give Kirishima a hickey. The circle of classmates began to chant, pushing Kiri and Denki into the center. Do it, do it, do it. Denki gulped, mouthing an apology to Kirishima before leaning in. Cheers erupted from the group as Denki pressed his lips to Kirishima's neck, pulling away to reveal a noticeable mark. They both returned to their spots in the circle, and Pikachu spun the bottle. I shot him a glare, making him sweat nervously. It landed on Tsuyu. Truth or dare? The game continued, with classmates using it to playfully explore their relationships. Bakugo, truth or dare? Mina asked, snapping me out of my thoughts with a mischievous glint in her eye. Dare, obviously, I replied. She pretended to think, tapping her finger on her chin and winking at Deku. I dare you to kiss Midoriya. The room gasped loudly before chanting. They pushed Deku into the center, ensuring he couldn't escape. Kirishima looked at me with a sad expression. I mouthed an apology to him as I was shoved into the circle. I hate you, Deku, I whispered. I'm sorry, Kaken, he replied meekly. We stared at each other for what felt like an eternity until our classmates pushed us together, our lips colliding before we could protest. I tried to pull away, but they held us in place for a moment. Finally, I used a small explosion to break free, sending us both tumbling back onto the rug as our classmates cheered and clapped. But I knew one thing for sure. Deku was definitely drunk. The taste of alcohol was unmistakable. But he doesn't drink. I ran out of the room, shouting that I was going to. I dashed down the hall and into the empty dining room, searching for Deku's plate and grabbing his cup. Holding it up to my nose, I took a whiff of it. Students rushed through the halls when the annoying bell rang. I walked to my desk, staring at the empty seat in front of me. Where on earth is Deku? Maybe he just didn't finish unpacking his things in his dorm. In all the years I've known him, he's never missed a day of school. It's not my problem anyway. Deku's POV. Yeah, I'm fine. I just have a little cold, that's all, I reassured my mom for the 50th time. She sighed, grabbing her purse. Okay, honey, just stay safe, alright? I will, Mom, don't worry. Don't open the door for anyone. Okay, Mom. Remember to visit me often. I will, Mom. And don't lose your dorm key. I won't, Mom. And make sure to wear oven mitts when you take stuff out of the microwave. I know, Mom. And make sure the door to your dorm room is locked. Mom. I'll be okay. Don't worry about it. I chuckled and kissed her cheek, sending her on her way to work. I love you, Izuku. I love you too, Mom. I smiled and waved at her car until it vanished from sight. My smile faded as I fell to the floor, clutching my chest. It hurt so much. This pain won't go away. It's been constant since our kiss at the sleepover. It's gradually getting worse, and I think I'm losing my mind. I ran down the hall, collapsing to the floor when I passed a certain someone's room. The scent of something chemical wafted under the door. It was oddly enticing yet filled with an unsettling pain. Stop it, Ray! I shouted, bursting through my dorm room door. Darkness enveloped me as I collapsed onto my bed, a wave of pain pulsing through my veins. I picked up my phone, and to my surprise, there was a text from Kaken. Another surge of pain washed over me, drowning out any rational thoughts. I quickly blocked his number and deleted the message. I couldn't talk to him. I couldn't see him. I needed to sever all ties with him. With that thought in mind, I drifted off into unconsciousness. Bakugo's POV. Did Deku just leave me hanging? I texted him to ask what was wrong, and he didn't respond. What was going on? Yesterday. Inko's POV. I know I'm supposed to be working, but I can't help but worry about Izuku. He said he had already talked to the lady in white. What do I do? A long time ago, when I was younger, I had a friend named Ko. She was my best friend in the whole wide world. She loved her soulmate dearly, but her soulmate fell in love with another woman, so they cut their string. One night, we decided to have a sleepover, but something seemed off. Ko seemed to have lost her glow. She was always a bright and cheerful person, but now her light seemed dimmer than usual. We had fun together, but in the middle of the night, I woke up to suspicious noises coming from the bathroom. I peeked through the door and saw red. Red blood was dripping from Ko's arm. Ko! What happened? Are you okay? I rushed to her aid, but she just laughed softly. The lady in white, she told me to. Who's the lady in white? What are you saying, Ko? She told me to. Let the darkness out. What darkness? Ko, you're losing blood. I wrapped her arm and sent her back to bed. Over the next 2 weeks, Ko started to slowly fade away. I stopped seeing her in the halls, and I stopped seeing her in classes. But then, out of the blue, she texted me. How dare you think about me that way, Inko? Don't call me a horrible person. Forget you. What are you talking about, Ko? I know that's what you think of me. The lady in white never lies. What? What did she tell you? Ray told me that you think I'm terrible and that. You've always hated me. What? Goodbye, Inko. A few weeks later, I got a call. Inko, please, help me. What's wrong? You sound like you're crying. Inko, the lady in white. She makes me do bad things. Ko? What did you do? I didn't mean to hurt her. I didn't mean. Ko, who did you hurt? She told me that if I hurt her, maybe she'll be free from the darkness as well. Inko, please help me. Ko, did you hurt? Mitsuki. I threw my phone to the floor and dashed out of the house, not even bothering to put on shoes. I remember so vividly Mitsuki's pained face. She was crying, clutching her stomach. There was a knife on the floor next to her. I took her to the hospital. They told me she had been stabbed multiple times, and it would be a miracle if she could have children since she was also injured internally. 2 weeks later, I got another call. Inko. Ko. You stabbed Mitsuki. Then you have the nerve to call. Why is there so much wind? Where are you? I can barely hear you. On top of the bridge. What? Why? Please, get down. This is where I met the lady in white. In my dreams, we meet here, on top of the bridge. No, Kao. Don't do it. Inko, I just wanted to tell you, I can't suffer like this anymore. No. Kao. Stop it please. You aren't thinking straight. The truth is I love you. I've loved you since the first day I laid eyes on you, and I can't stand the pain of knowing that I can't be with you. Kao, I'm coming. Please hold on. And if I jump, the lady in white says I will finally be free. Caillou. I remember how the wind whistled through the phone as she fell from the bridge, and the sound of her phone landing in the water. It scarred me for life. Kao's body was found 2 weeks later when it was spotted hanging from a noose in the schoolyard. I'm the only one who knows what really happened to Kao, but no one would believe me. 2 weeks later, I cut my own string. My soulmate was rude and constantly angry with me. When he hit me, that was the last straw. Of course, I got a soul string shellament so I didn't disappear. A shellament is a prosthetic soul string that can take the place of someone's soul string once it's been cut. It did cost me, so much in fact that I had to stop eating dinner for months. Then it happened. Hello, Inko. What the heck? My name is Ray, but I am more commonly known as the lady in white. No. You killed Kao. No, you did. Did you not hear what she said? She couldn't stand living in a world without you being her girlfriend. I killed Kao. No, I didn't. Show yourself, coward. A beautiful woman with white hair in a long flowing dress appeared in front of me. We were on the roof of a building, the blue sky reflecting in her eyes. Where am I? You've met your end, my dear. This is where you die. Say goodbye, Inko. The scenery dissolved, and I woke up in my bed. I picked up my ringing phone and answered the call. Hello. Hey Inko, it's NG. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry, NG. I forgot I was going to tutor you today. I'll be over as fast as I can. Thanks, Inko. I hopped on my bike with my backpack on and sped to NG's house. I rang the doorbell and he let me inside. I tutored him for a few hours until the sun went down. Hey, before I leave, NG, can I use the restroom? Sure, it's down that hall. I walked down the Japanese-style hallway, papers sliding doors on the walls. When I entered the bathroom, a framed picture caught my eye. It was a picture of NG's soulmate. She disappeared years ago, with no trace left behind. She had white hair and an ice quirk. I was never very close to her, but I remember hearing her crying in the bathroom about her abusive boyfriend. Then it hit me the name on the picture frame was Ray. The snow-white hair. It had to be her. How did I not recognize her? But one question remains. Izuku's POV. Ray was standing by the railing of UA just like before. I walked up to her, ready to hear her soothing voice, ready to see her elegant face. But when she turned around, she looked like Kirishima. You know, Midoriya, I hate your guts. Bakugo is mine, so don't you dare call him that pet name ever again. What pet name? Kaken. I'm so lonely and I want to steal you from your boyfriend, and I'm a huge flirt. I stuck everyone I meet. He scoffed and suddenly turned into my mom. You're such a disgusting waste of my time. Do you know all the trouble I have to go through to take care of you? Ugh, I wish I had a daughter. Or a son. As long as they're not you, I don't mind what gender they are. I broke down in tears, the voices of my classmates hissing degrading words at me, spitting my name as if it were poison. I desperately tried to cover my ears, but the voices only grew louder. Then there was silence. I opened my eyes and wiped away my tears. All Might. You're pathetic. And no, this isn't you. I shouldn't have wasted my quirk on you. I should have given it to someone strong like young Bakugo. Please stop. Please, Ray. Plus Ultra my foot. You're just a silly fanboy, you'll never be more than that. Ah. I stood up and punched All Might, watching as he fell to the floor before disintegrating into ashes. Wow, you took down the symbol of peace. You're the best villain I've ever seen. I turned around and was face to face with Shigaraki. I am not a villain. I'm going to be a hero. But who did he give his power to, huh? Why did he retire? His power was weakened because he wasted his quirk on you. I shot up out of bed, my chest heaving. Let the darkness out. I muttered to myself. Just one little cut, and the darkness will flow. Yes, let the darkness out. Ray finished. I stood up, repeating the tune quietly to myself as I stumbled my way to the shower room. Cut, Izuku. Cut in the shower room. Get your blade and cut. Clean the blood. Cut. I grabbed the blade I had prepared ahead of time from its hiding spot under the rug. Huh, that's kind of funny. I woke up exactly at 3 a.m. The devil's hour. Hey, Ray, you're an angel, right? Given the white hair and the flowing dress. No, believe it or not, I'm actually a devil. Really? You don't seem like it. Your voice is so sweet, and you always speak the truth. Some people call me the devil of heartbreak because of my backstory. Backstory? Yes, it was very tragic. How so? Well, let me tell you a little story. There was once a girl in high school. She had a soulmate like everyone. Except hers didn't work out as well as others. Her soulmate was a cruel, unkind man. He would hurt her, both physically and mentally. One day, she had enough. She ran into the forest, away from her abusive soulmate. That's where she found the book. This book was filled with rituals, magic spells, if you will. But these were dark magic. Evil magic. She opened it up, and it magically flipped to the page she needed. The spell was called the Devil's Work. This spell would allow a human to become a devil, but the kind of devil they were depended on their old human life. So she performed the ritual in the dark of the forest. She was in the center of a pentagram with black candles all around her. She spoke the ancient words, and with a flash of light, she disappeared. At least that's what the humans said, but in reality, she became a being. A new being. That being was a devil. The devil of heartbreak. Wow, Ray, I'm really sorry. It doesn't matter. Cut. Oh, right. I walked up to a shower stall and turned on the water. I hissed at the cold water as it touched my feet. I took out my blade and dropped it. My hands were shaking, but I picked it back up. Cut. I made a slash across my left wrist, smiling at the crimson liquid. It feels so good. You were right, Ray. Of course I was. One for All Might. Cut. One for Kirishima. Cut. 3 for Mom. Cut. No, 5. I kept cutting and cutting, zoned out to the point where I lost track of the crimson lines on my wrist. Kaken. Phew. Very good, Izuku. Thanks, Ray. Bam. Gah. Bakugo's POV. Beep. Boom. Well, that's the 5th alarm clock this month. I groaned and tossed the charred alarm clock into the trash before sitting up and stretching. It was 2:55, so I had to go shower and then train before school started. I stood up, grabbed my bath towel, and headed for the showers. I turned on the water all the way to the highest temperature and stepped into the scalding water. The only thing I hate more than being looked down on is the cold. I despise the cold and would rather die than take a cold shower. The hot water running down my back loosened all the knots in my muscles. It felt so good. Hey, Ray, you're an angel, right? Given the white hair and the flowing dress. Really? You don't seem like it. Your voice is so sweet, and you always speak the truth. Backstory? What the hell? Is that Deku? Why is he talking to himself? No, he said he was talking to someone named Ray. Wait, holy shit. I turned off the water and stayed silent, listening in on his conversation while drying my hands. Is this the same Ray? The same Ray that got my mother hurt so badly? I grabbed my phone and scrolled frantically through my contacts. Hey, Mom. Yes, Brett. Also, what the heck? It's 3 o'clock in the morning. Why are you texting me? What was the name of the white-haired lady again? The one who got your friend to hurt you? Typing. Oh, right, I heard Deku say. I heard the pitter-patter of water running as Deku turned on a shower, then the sound of metal hitting the tiled floor. What kind of metal thing would someone bring to a shower? 1 for All Might. 1 for Kirishima. 3 for Mom. No, 5. He faintly mumbled my name. Thanks, Ray. That's it. My curiosity took over, and I ran to his bathroom stall, the metallic smell filling my nose. I slammed into Deku, pinning him to the shower floor. Ouch! Hey! Get out of Deku's head, goddammit. Oh. Kakin, I hurts. Let go. Ugh. I looked around the shower stall, spotting red all over the floor. There was blood. Everywhere. But Deku had no visible cuts. Oh. Kakin, please let go of my wrist. It hurts. That's when I spotted the bloody razor lying on the shower floor. Please. It hurts. I'm begging you, Kakin. Let go of my wrist, Deku cried, tears rolling down his freckled face. I let go, revealing my blood-covered hand. Then I saw the cuts. For me. There were at least 20 open cuts scattered across his forearm. Much more than he had counted out loud, and 12 of them were my fault. Deku. Don't touch me, Bakugo. Deku cried, snatching his razor off the floor and making a run for it. He blocked my number. Then called me Bakugo? It's almost like he's trying to cut me out of his life. Chapter End. Bakugo's POV. Young Bakugo, is there something wrong? I raised my middle finger and muttered a low, "Leave me alone," as his steps grew distant, getting the message. I rested my head on the table, stifling sniffles. I'm not one to cry, but right now is one of the few exceptions. The events of last night replayed in my mind. To think that he was hurting himself. Because of me. Goddammit, stop crying, you wimp. Oh, Midoriya. You're late. That's not acceptable in my class. What's your excuse? WLUSCIW-. Okay, I don't care. Sit down. I could hear his chair scrape against the floor as he sat down behind me, but I didn't dare look up. No one can see me crying. The only ones who have seen me cry are Deku and the old hag. Flashback. I walked up to her, stuttering and shaking with puffy red eyes. She was washing the dishes when I got home from that day at middle school. I wasn't a stranger to being called a villain, but today I just couldn't handle it anymore. What is it, you brat? She stopped yelling when she looked down at my face. She sighed and took off her dishwashing gloves. They called me a villain again and I just can't take it anymore. She cupped my cheeks and smiled. It's okay, Katsuki. The world can misunderstand people at first glance, but one day, you'll find someone who can help people realize who you truly are. She wiped away a tear from my cheek, and I burst into sobs, hugging her close. I love you, Katsuki. I always will, you little brat. I stepped back a few minutes later, removing her arms from around me, trying to make a disgusted face. Whatever. I ran up the stairs, rubbing at my eyes. I love you too, Mom. And a flashback. And Deku saw me crying just last night. Flashback. I chased after Deku, the glint of the metal razor reflecting moonlight as he ran down the hall. Oi, Deku. Stop running, Biggie. He took a quick glance back at me before quickening his pace, small green sparks lighting up the darkened dorm hallways. If he uses his quirk, there's no way I can catch up to him. Go away, Bakugo. The way he shouted my name was like a wounded deer calling out. After being shot by a hunter. And I was the hunter. It hurt. Badly. I saw my chance when he stumbled a bit on his footing. I lunged forward, latching onto Deku's foot. He tripped and fell, sending both of us tumbling. When we landed, I quickly restrained him, pinning his arms above his head and straddling him to keep him from getting up. Goddammit, Deku. I looked into his eyes. They were like deep emerald pools filled with sadness. Tears blurred my vision, and I loosened my grip on his arms, letting them rest on his chest. Izu, please. You have to tell me what's wrong. He recoiled at what I said, confused. I wiped my tears, anxious to hear what he had to say. We don't need you. With unmeasurable strength, Izuku threw me off of him before sprinting down the hall. My back slammed against the wall, and I helplessly watched Deku running away. Hot tears rolled down my face. It was quite an unfamiliar feeling. Why Izuku? And a flashback. That's all for today. Remember to get your slips filled in by tomorrow. Slips? I wasn't listening. I guess I'll have to ask Kirishima. I rolled my eyes and wiped any remaining tears off my face, the school bell echoing through the halls. Dismissed. Kirishima's POV. Bakugo walked up to me but without his usual prideful stance. He was slumped over, and I swear his eyes were just the slightest bit red, almost like he had been crying. But shitty hair. Shitty hair? I thought he stopped calling me that when we tied our strings. Yes, babe? He almost looked confused for a second before he started to talk again. I wasn't listening in class. What's this slip for? He held out the light yellow slip of paper, lined with fine print. It's for the basic survival test. Or as some of the teachers call it, the BST. The heck is that? I'll explain it later when I come to your dorm tonight. Wait, you're coming to my dorm? Why? Babe. Never mind, it doesn't matter. Whatever. See you later, shitty hair. He walked away, still lacking his usual prideful posture. He roughly shoved his hands in his pockets, ruby red eyes glued to the floor. It really bothers me, the way he's acting. But the thing that bothers me the most? Even though we had been planning to make it special, even though he promised me we would have a great time together, he completely forgot about our date tonight. Chapter end. He was supposed to be here. Oh wait, we didn't set a time. So why do I feel like we did? I feel like he was supposed to be here at 6 p.m., and we were going to. I shoved my phone into my pocket and raced out of my dorm room. How could I forget our date? I sped down the silent hallways, my footsteps echoing in the corridor. I stopped in front of the metal doors, slamming my fist into the elevator button. My chest heaved as I impatiently waited for the elevator to arrive. Ding! I threw myself inside and collided with someone. Yet I didn't hear a word no, ow, or watch where you're going. I didn't even have to look twice to recognize his fluffy green hair. It was him. Deku. I whispered, looking away from him. He ignored me, keeping his eyes fixed on the floor number. Don't ignore me, Deku. I meant to say it threateningly, but it came out more like a plea. A tear fell down his face, but he swiped it away, as he always did. That guy, I bet he thinks no one sees how he does that every day when Kirishima and I meet in the hallway, or when he walks down the halls, or during lunch, or when he stares out of the classroom window. But I do. Just leave me alone, Bakugo, he hissed, just as the elevator doors opened. He walked out without giving me a second glance. The doors slowly closed as he disappeared around a corner. But besides his attitude, there was something else odd about him. It was almost as if his shadow had long hair and a dress, and it had a knife aimed at Deku's back. I shoved my hand between the almost closed doors and forced them back open, probably breaking the elevator. Izuku! I tore after him, tears streaming down my face. Was he hurt? Was he going to get hurt? Was he dead? Tripping over my feet, I turned the corner and tumbled, slamming into the wall. Deku's shadow was cast on the wall in front of me. It was normal. I slowly looked up to meet his cold, green eyes. The glow I once saw was now gone, leaving only an empty stare and a look of disgust on his face. But it wasn't fully disgust, there was something else. What the? Kaken? Izu's POV. Kaken's eyes widened. Kaken, he said, pointing at himself. I shouldn't have called him that. I quickly turned away and kept walking. He's chasing you, idiot. Ray, can't you do something? I muttered aggressively. Fine. I heard a thud behind me and turned my head. Kaken was on the floor, gripping his ankle. You're welcome. Kirishima's POV. Knock knock knock. Sorry, I'm not feeling well, I croaked, wiping tears from my face. Open the door, Kiri. Be babe. I stood up and ghosted my hand over the doorknob, admiring the red string illuminating my dark room. I snapped out of my daze and gripped the doorknob tightly, twisting the handle. Bakugo looked like an angel. I could have sworn he was glowing. He had black ripped jeans, a black graphic tank top, and an orange flannel tied around his waist. Kiri, you ready for our date? I broke into sobs, hugging him tight. I thought you forgot. He chuckled, and I got dressed before holding his hand in mine. Izu's POV. I am here. I'm here. I'm here. I am here. I groaned, flipping over to turn off my alarm with my left hand instead of my faded right one. I swung my feet off the bed and hopped up onto my feet. Instant regret. I tumbled forward, hitting my head on my dresser. I swear I could hear Rei laughing in my head. "You're fading, Izuku," she cooed. "I know, go away." I rubbed the back of my head and looked down at my feet. Well, technically my foot. My left foot was fading now, all 5 of my toes gone. What do I do? It's not like I can use crutches since my right hand is gone. Maybe I can just walk? I stood up again, balancing on my dresser and limping around my room before managing a somewhat normal walk. Quickly getting dressed, I left the dorms. I contemplated getting breakfast but realized I didn't even have time to. "Izuku, stop eating." "What? Why would I do that?" "Have you seen yourself in the mirror?" "Duh, she's right. I'm fat. I'm ugly. I'm a pig." "You're fat. You're ugly. You're a pig," Rei repeated. With my stomach grumbling, I walked to class. Students filed into the classroom, buzzing with excitement. "Today's our survival test." Hagakure squealed. "I'm so excited." Mina did a twirl and sat on Hagakure's desk. "Everyone shut up," Aizawa groaned, unzipping his sleeping bag. "Today we will be having our BST. You will be in groups of 5 in different climates. There is a winter climate, a desert climate, a deserted island, and an apocalyptic city. Your groups are Ojiro, Siro, Mineta, Mina, and Hagakure, Tokoyami, Momo, Sato, Shoji, and Aoyama, Tsuyu, Ida, Uraraka, Koda, and Jiro. And finally, Bakugo, Izuku, Todoroki, Denki, and Kirishima. You will pick your climate from this box once we get to the grounds. Follow me, everyone." Aizawa opened the door, and everyone followed him as he led the class out of the school. Aiza's POV. "Whoa, it's so big!" Mina shouted, looking at the building. The building was a giant dome made of shiny steel plates. "That's what she said," Denki snickered. "All right, everyone, get into your groups and send someone to pick a climate." I looked around and found my group. Todoroki was glaring at Bakugo. Bakugo and Kirishima were making lovey-dovey eyes at each other, and Denki was talking to Siro, even though he's not in our group. I wiped a tear from my eye. Why do I always cry? Remember, no food. Yeah. I walked up to Aizawa and reached my hand into the box. I pulled out a round object. A hologram shot out like when I got into UA. "Randomizing," the girl-sounding robot voice exclaimed. "Ding! Apocalyptic climate." Chapter end. Aiza's POV. We opened the big glass doors to the dome and were told to go to level. Each level has a different climate in it, and the elevator will lock after you are all on your correct floor. Aizawa lazily pointed to the elevator and continued, "Your hologram thing has your floor number on it. Now everyone, get in the elevator." "Excuse me, Aizawa-sensei." Aizawa looked back at his class and sighed. "Yes, Ida?" Ida gestured toward the closed elevator doors with his hands. "How will we all fit in one elevator?" Ding. All of the students stared in awe at the size of the elevator. "Wow, it's so big!" Mina exclaimed, stepping inside. "That's what she said," Kaminari snickered, following the rest of the class into the unusually large elevator. Students pressed their faces against the glass, gazing out at the view. The training facility was built atop a mountain, offering a stunning panorama of the city skyline, lush green mountains, and rivers flowing through the valleys. The wonder in their eyes made me smile slightly. "They look like total idiots," Rei remarked, ruining my moment of happiness for my classmates. My smile faded as I turned away from the window and looked toward the elevator doors. Kirishima and Bakugo stood close together, their hands intertwined, blushing as they exchanged glances. I tightened my grip on the metal bar I was holding, the sight triggering a familiar pain in my heart. Their love feels like a curse to me. Their bond grows stronger while I feel weaker. My hair stuck to my forehead as I broke into a sweat. I didn't want to make a scene or have them pity me, but this pain intensifies every day. It's just so hard to hide. I bit my lip, overwhelmed by the pain as I looked up from the floor, my vision blurred by the tears I was holding back. Most of my classmates had already left the elevator, and I hadn't even noticed. They don't matter anyway, Ray snarled, sounding both vicious and heavenly. At last, the last group exited, leaving just my group in the elevator. I clawed at my chest, fighting off my tears. Go on. Why do you treat me this way? Why must I be the one to suffer in silence, watching as others ignore me? Midoriya? Is something wrong? You look like you're about to cry. I looked up to meet the worried eyes of Denki? Kirishima and Bakugo were staring at me as well, but Bakugo looked genuinely concerned. Kirishima, on the other hand, looked furious. I'm fine, Kaminari. I managed to say. He raised an eyebrow. Are you sure you're okay? Please, just go away. I struggled to speak, each word sending another sharp pain through my heart. Where's Todoroki? Kirishima interrupted, changing the subject entirely, which would have been a relief if Bakugo didn't keep giving me worried looks. Oh, he wasn't allowed in since he refused to ask his dad to sign the slip, so he was sent back to campus? Denki replied, stepping away from me. Kirishima's POV. I know what he's doing, acting like he's hurt, tearing up like a baby. Does he want my boyfriend's attention that badly? How about he just faints from a heart attack instead? No, stop thinking like that. Bakugo loves you. Midoriya would never do something like that. It's not manly to assume. Plus, I still have a feeling he's been talking to that Ray person a bad feeling. I fought the urge to see Midoriya as the bad guy until I noticed Bakugo giving Izuku a worried look. That's when I lost it. My poker face morphed into a fiery glare, and I furrowed my brows, struggling not to punch him right then and there. My fist hardened in my pocket, but instead, I decided to change the subject. Through gritted teeth, I interrupted, Where's Todoroki? Deku's POV. Level 4 blinked in blue lights as the doors opened, revealing our home for the next 24 hours. Rusted cars with vines growing over them were scattered across the floor, some even turned upside down. My pain faded as I stepped out of the elevator, which shut and locked behind us. Tall skyscrapers covered the landscape, most of them falling apart and covered in moss. Welcome to the apocalyptic climate. Here you will have to find or make food, shelter, fire, and water. The twist is, you may not use your quirks. This building has taken away your quirks, and you will not be able to use them until the 24-hour mark is up. Good luck. Wow, that scared me. Denki exclaimed, tripping over a vine. Tease, don't be such an idiot, Pikachu, Bakugo scoffed, stepping over the vine. For a while after that, we walked in silence, avoiding vines and large cracks in the pavement. What should we focus on first? Kirishima asked, breaking the uncomfortable silence. We all thought for a moment until I spotted a mostly intact parking structure. Why don't we set up shelter in there and then split up for food and water? I suggested, pointing to the building. Sounds like a good plan. Denki smiled, running toward it. Last one, there's a rotten egg. After our race, we stood by the building, panting. Maybe we should find water before racing, you idiots. Bakugo rolled his eyes, walking toward us. Bakugo's a rotten egg. Denki laughed, lightening the mood. We laughed along with him, starting our climb up the parking lot stairs. Most of the stairs were broken, missing, or cracked, making the ascent a struggle. That's when it happened. My foot broke through a weak point in the concrete, and I fell through, multiple stairs crumbling around me, leaving me with nothing to grab onto. We were 6 stories up, and if I fell, I might actually get hurt. I closed my eyes, bracing for impact when a hand suddenly latched onto mine. You idiot! Watch where you're stepping, he shouted, hoisting me up. Still holding my hand, we continued to walk. If you fall again, I'll be holding on, he said nonchalantly. When we reached the 8th floor, we decided it was the best place to set up camp since it was less damaged than the others and a good spot to partner up. Without my quirk, I'm pretty weak. I call Kirishima. Denki exclaimed, beckoning Kirishima to follow him. Okay, hold on, Denki. You're too fast. Kirishima called back, running after him. We're getting water. Denki shouted before disappearing down the stairs. I smiled at the 2 friends until I realized what that meant. Guess I'm stuck with you, you know, nerd. I slowly lifted my head to meet his gaze. My cheeks heated up, and I looked away, feeling his intense ruby-red eyes on me. Okay, let's go look for food. I stammered. Don't be a fool, Izuku, a voice echoed in my mind. Ray piped up as I walked down the stairs. He hates you. He loves someone else. Don't forget all the times he bullied you. All the times he hurt you. Oi, nerd, why are you staring off into space? Hurry up, the minute. Bakugo snapped. I rolled my eyes and looked away, Ray's reminders of all the times Bakugo had bullied me echoing in my mind. Bakugo's POV. Did Deku just roll his eyes at me? What the hell is going on with him? I watched him warily as he walked in front of me until we finally found a vine-covered supermarket. The sign flickered on and off, and the door was stuck shut with rust. I tugged and kicked at it, but it just wouldn't budge. Suddenly, I flinched at a loud noise and turned to see Deku had thrown a brick at the window, shattering it. He shot me a dirty look and hopped inside, tripping and falling onto the glass. He stood up without hesitation and looked around, but I noticed the cuts on his legs and hands. What the heck? Deku, you're bleeding! I shouted, rushing towards him. I grabbed his hand to inspect the cuts, but he yanked it away. Don't touch me, Bakugo, he hissed, disappearing down an aisle. Of course, I chased after him. I wouldn't let him treat me like this. My pride wouldn't allow it. I tackled him onto the tiled floor, which was covered in patches of moss. He thrashed beneath me, avoiding eye contact. Get off, he shouted. No. Not until you tell me what's wrong with you. I shouted back, tightening my grip. I pinned his arms above his head, not letting him move. There was a long silence, his struggles slowly growing weaker. Pete, please, he whimpered as if he was in pain. I loosened my grip, shocked by the sudden change in his demeanor. He looked me in the eyes, and for the first time in a while, I saw the old Deku. His emerald green eyes were filled with tears, and I got off of him, sitting in front of him instead. He wiped his tears away, but they just kept coming. Izuku's POV. You hate him, all he does is hurt you. Don't let him fool you, Ray chanted in my head, but all I could hear was the word, hate. Hate is a strong word. But I know this, I don't hate Kaken. Deku. No, Izu, he corrected. I don't know what's happening to you, but I want to help, he continued, slowly inching closer to me. Every inch he came closer, I could feel the pain in my heart increase. Please, Bakugo, don't come any closer, I whimpered, scooting back. Every time you call me that, something feels wrong, Izu. I don't know why. He scooted closer, backing me into a corner. I panicked, clutching the fabric over my heart. He was so close, close enough that our noses almost touched. But the pain distracted me from that. It hurt so much that it numbed me. My senses faded, everything around me becoming blurry, except for him. All I could see was him, his ruby-red eyes, his spiky blonde hair, the way his breath mingled with mine. In that moment I felt a rush of emotions, and before I knew it, our lips met. Instantly, the pain intensified. Tears streamed down my face as I closed my eyes, overwhelmed by the kiss that brought both pain and a strange warmth. He was the one to break the kiss, leaning against an aisle, leaving me breathless. Bakugo's POV. I just kissed him without thinking. I only wanted to ask him what was wrong. I looked up to see his reaction, expecting anger, but instead he was smiling. My cheeks heated up, a furious blush covering my face. Just the way he smiled, the little sparkle in his eyes, the glow I once loved returning, even if just for a moment, made me feel like the happiest person alive. I'm sorry, Kaken, he whispered. The endearing nickname echoed in my head, making me blush even harder. It's whatever, I mumbled, standing up. We have to get back soon, so let's get some food. Izuku's POV. Izuku, he called. What? If you talk to him again, I'm going to hurt you worse than you can imagine, and no one will be able to save you. So I suggest you listen to me or else. I gulped hard and stood up, searching through the aisles opposite him. My fingers brushed over cans of soup and expired snacks covered in plants and rust, but surprisingly I found some edible items. I grabbed a plastic shopping bag and shook the dirt out of it, putting my items inside. Hey Izu? I think it's time to head back, Kaken said, standing by the doorway. I shoved past him, not daring to look him in the eyes. Bakugo's POV. I frowned when he shoved past me, about to yell at him when I saw his eyes. His glow. It was gone, replaced with a darkness so cold that even I couldn't do anything about it. Just as quickly as the old Izuku had returned to me, he was stolen away. Just like that, he was gone. What have I done? I'm the one who took Kirishima, but it was for a good reason. I was sure about it earlier, but now I'm regretting it. Big time. A certain shark-toothed boy and I walked in silence, a very, very awkward silence. But I had to do this, especially since Ray was really starting to get on my nerves. I woke up in a pool of sweat, soft moonlight seeping through my bedroom window. I blinked once, then again. The usual dim red glow that should be reflecting off my walls was missing. My room was pitch black except for the rays of white light leaking through the curtains. I rubbed my eyes, believing I was seeing things. I definitely had to be seeing things. Or was it what I wasn't seeing that was bothering me? My soul string, the one that is supposed to connect me to my one true love, wasn't glowing anymore. I blinked back tears, frantically looking around my room for an explanation, but all I saw was the dim glow of the night, taunting me and my non-glowing string. Denki. The familiar voice rang through my dimly lit room. I was crying, my sniffles muffled by my blanket fort. I eyed my finger warily, the tip of it starting to fade. Denki, the voice called out again, knocking on the door repeatedly. I let out a shaky sigh, sniffling once more before meekly calling back, I'm busy, Soooo. There was a moment of silence before I heard the subtle rustle of paper being slid under the door. I sighed again and stood up, taking my Pikachu plush with me. Please, Denki, I really want to talk, so just open up the door. Underneath the scribbled out words was a drawing of Pikachu. I smiled at the poorly drawn character, quietly chuckling. I slowly moved my hand to the knob, the sight of my intact fingers reminding me of the fading one on my other hand. I frowned and opened the door, hissing at the bright light coming in from the hallway. Denki, can I come in? I hesitated, not wanting to risk him seeing my finger, but I nodded anyway. He closed the door behind him, sealing out the outside world. I sat down on my bed, cross-legged with my stuffed animal in my lap, awaiting his next words. Denki, are you okay? He stepped closer to me, gently brushing his thumb over my tear-stained cheek. I sniffled, a bright pink blush covering my face. I guess I never noticed how handsome Soooo was. Okay, I'm gonna get straight to the point, he continued, grabbing my hand in his and sitting next to me. Denki, are you fading? Needless to say, I came to school the next day with my string glowing bright red once again, but I didn't like how it felt. My finger went back to normal, but I didn't like being with Soooo. I had this weird, uneasy feeling, and he told me that he understood. Soon enough, I found myself soulmateless once again. When I saw Bakugo and Kirishima together, though, it felt different. No longer did I feel uneasy, but rather frustrated. My soulmate left me for some hot-headed, short-tempered Pomeranian. I cried a lot, and the Denki fort was back and bigger than ever. I even borrowed some of Mina's blankets and pillows since she had extra. So there I sat, alone, afraid, angry. That's when she happened. I was in a dream, standing in a thunderstorm on the top of a broken-down, moss-covered skyscraper. The city around me looked, well, how do I put this? Apocalyptic? Next to me stood a woman with hair as white as fresh winter snow and a long flowing dress, swaying like ocean waves. What do you wish for, Denki Kaminari? She said at last in a calm, angelic voice. I wish for someone to love me, I replied, looking out onto the apocalyptic city from almost high enough to touch the clouds. Tears welled up in my eyes, but I blinked them away. Are you sure? I was about to nod when she whipped her head around, and staring at me was not the angelic girl I saw seconds before. Staring at me was Kirishima. Kiri? I stuttered, taken aback by the expression on his face. He looked fierce, smiling deviously at me with his sharp eyes mimicking the blaze of a fire. You know, Denki, He cooed, swirling around me, tracing his fingers slowly from my chest to just above my belt. I've always loved you. I blushed, looking away, but he put a finger to my chin, directing my eyes back to him. Eyes on me, baby. His smile was unsettling, but he distracted me by combing his fingers through my hair, causing my blush to deepen. He leaned in swiftly, not giving me time to react, and kissed me. I closed my eyes, melting in his embrace when the sound of something slicing through the air echoed through the silent city streets. My eyes widened as I coughed, feeling something warm and sticky in my mouth. I stumbled back, losing my balance and toppling over the side of the skyscraper. The angry thunderclouds cried, raindrops making a pitter-patter as they hit the cracked, mossy cement. The last thing I saw before I blacked out was Kirishima, his expression unreadable. Ray continued to talk to me, telling me to hate Kirishima, to forget about him, to let the darkness out. But I didn't listen because every time I saw him smile, every ounce of anger in my body drained away. Because even if I don't want to admit it, I'm still in love with Kirishima. I heard coughing behind me and whipped my head around to see him sitting on a cracked staircase, coughing into his arm. "Whoa, Kirishima, are you okay?" I asked, a worried look on my face. "Yeah, sorry, I choked on my own spit, huh?" He scratched the back of his head as I reached out my hand. "Please be careful and don't scare me like that." I smiled as I took his hand, blushing at the contact. We walked for a few more minutes in silence before I decided to bring it up. "Did you really mean that?" I asked. "Mean what?" he replied, looking genuinely confused. I gawked at him. Did he really not even know what he said? "You didn't say anything?" I pressed. He looked at me like I was crazy and twirled his finger in a circle next to his head. "You must be hearing things, Kiri." He giggled and kept walking, talking about how we should get water, but all I could hear was the sound of his laughter. His sweet, sweet giggle. I smiled, and a light blush dusted my cheeks as we kept walking to who knows where. But as long as I got to spend some time with my bro, I didn't care where we were going. Because we are best bros. Right? Kirishima's POV. The water-filled jugs weighed down my arms as I ran through the rainy streets, dodging rusty cars, cracks in the pavement, and vines spilling from the crevices. "Denki, I'm pretty sure we're lost. Maybe we should take shelter instead of running in this weather." "Denki?" I sighed and stopped, glancing back as the heavy rain pelted my head. His yellow hair was soaked, and his eyes were closed, a blissful smile on his face as he looked up at the sky. The rain trickled down his cheeks, soaking his shirt completely. I felt my cheeks heat up at the sight of his shirt clinging to his abs as he smiled. Blissfully drenched. "Do Denki?" His eyes fluttered open and he smiled, lowering his gaze from the storm clouds to me. "I love the rain." Izuku's POV. Deku. Denki shouted behind me, his footsteps exaggerated by the splashing puddles. He was starting to catch up, but I didn't stop running. "If you talk to him again, I'm going to hurt you worse than you can imagine." I shivered, vividly recalling Ray's words. "Deku, you bstd. Stop running. No one will be able to save you. So I suggest you listen to me, or else." A tear slipped down my face, followed by another and another. Luckily, it had just started raining, or my tear-streaked face would have stood out like a sore thumb. "Just great," I muttered, hastily wiping my tears on my already soaked jacket sleeve. "I'm crying again." I sniffled and focused on getting back to the camp, squinting as the heavy rain mercilessly pelted me from every direction. If I could just get there. Maybe Denki or Kirishima would be able to distract Kaken long enough for me to slip away. I kept my eyes on the road ahead, but my mind wandered far from it. I couldn't stop thinking about how I had fallen on that glass inside the abandoned store. Only my toes were gone this morning, but when I landed perfectly and still fell over, I knew immediately something was wrong. At least half my foot had already faded. Panic surged through me as I stumbled on my half of a foot before catching myself. I brought my arm into view and pulled up my sleeve to check on it. I gulped hard. It was completely faded all the way up to my elbow. Fear kicked in, distracting my already scattered thoughts. Just like that, I knew what was about to happen. I tumbled to the ground, my ankle caught on a vine. Deku, are you okay? I hastily shoved the empty half of my sleeve into my pocket, making it look like my hand was there when, in reality, it didn't exist anymore. A spiky-haired boy stopped in front of me, chest heaving. What the hell, Deku? Ignoring me? Glaring at me? What's going on with you, idiot? You trying to get yourself killed? I looked to the side, avoiding his sharp crimson gaze. Odd but quiet sounds started coming from his direction, and being the curious person I was, I looked back at him to figure out the source of the noise. Big mistake. DDM it. Deku, he said through sniffles, tears streaming down his cheeks. I clenched my only intact fist tightly, trying to tear my eyes away from the ash-blonde boy, but I couldn't. His tears glimmered in the dimming sunlight, storm clouds reflecting in his beautiful eyes. I felt my cheeks flush but frowned, knowing I couldn't say anything back to him. Do you even know how worried I am about you? He screamed. I remained on the ground, planning to stay there until Kaken was done talking. I dared not move while he was in such an emotional state. Deku, he started again, his voice cracking as he wiped his eyes. I can't help the way I feel. Does that make me a bad person? I stayed still, that sentence making the whole world go quiet. The vines stopped rustling, the wind ceased its whistling, and even the pitter-patter of the rain faded away. All I could hear were Kaken's words, repeating like a broken record. He can't help the way he feels? Why can't? Demon IT. Why can't IT just go back to the way it was? He screamed, his voice echoing through the labyrinth of broken buildings. Tears welled in my eyes. Even though I had no clue what he was talking about, the sheer amount of emotion in his voice brought me to tears. The agony, the sorrow, overflowed from him like a clogged sink with water still running. Damn it, Deku, he softly whimpered, shaking with emotion as another tear slid down his face. Why can't I just choose who I fall in love with? Denki's run slowed to a leisurely walk, and he chuckled as Kirishima sped past him, eager to escape the pouring rain. Kirishima, you don't have to run. We're already soaked, Denki said. Kirishima paused for a moment, then slowed to match Denki's pace. Oh, you're right, hee. He scratched the back of his head, a bit embarrassed that he hadn't realized it sooner. But he wasn't complaining. His arms were tired from carrying the heavy jugs of water. You sure you don't want me to hold those, Kirishima? Denki asked, glancing at the jugs in Kirishima's arms. Nah, I'm fine, Kirishima replied with a smile. They walked side by side in a comfortable silence, avoiding each other's eyes and instead gazing out at the city. The abandoned buildings and broken streets surrounded them, and the only sound was the gentle patter of rain, creating a peaceful atmosphere. How do you think the other two are doing? Denki finally broke the silence. Kirishima jumped, startled by the sudden question. When I jumped, the most amazing thing happened. Denki started to laugh. It was as if the whole world got a little brighter. His dare I say beautiful smile was beaming at me. A warm blush crept onto my cheeks, but I continued to stare. He was just so innocent, so pure, so cute. Only now did I realize he was staring back at me. He wiped tears from his eyes, and I quickly turned my head away, focusing on the tall building ahead of us. It towered over the rest, with intact windows that could shield us from the harsh winds, making it our best bet for a dry place to take shelter. With one final step, we entered the building. To our dismay, the bottom floor was flooded, with several inches of water covering it. Our only choice was to go up. Kirishima, however, didn't seem to notice the water at all. I giggled as I watched him shake his arms around, grumbling about the water jugs. Screw you water jugs. My arms hurt now, he shouted, attempting to kick one but missing and falling with a splash onto the floor. I rubbed my lower back, frowning, until I looked up and saw Denki standing over me, giggling like a child. His hand was outstretched toward mine. Are you okay, Kirishima? He asked, his laughter infectious. My heart squeezed and my cheeks heated up. I grasped his hand and playfully squeezed it. Yeah, I'm fine. How is it that I only just noticed how dark the room was? I looked over at Kirishima, who was sitting on the stairs leading to the next floor. The higher floors would likely be brighter since the surrounding buildings blocked sunlight from reaching this low. I groaned and tapped Kirishima's shoulder. "What is it, Denki?" he asked. I gestured toward the stairs, and he groaned in response. "For the light." "Yeah," I confirmed. Kirishima swung his arms toward the water jugs, his expression saying it all. I laughed. The face he made resembled that of a middle schooler being told to fold laundry. "Don't worry, you can leave those down here, and we can get them in the morning," I reassured him. Kirishima sighed in relief and followed me as we made our way up the stairs. 1 floor, 3 floors, 12 floors, still no light. 30 floors, 40 floors, 50 floors, finally, a little bit of light. After climbing 69 floors, we reached the top floor. All that was left was the roof. There we were, sprawled out on the floor, panting and sweating. We stared up at the ceiling, then at each other. Kirishima's mouth was open, and his tongue was out as he tried to catch his breath. I probably looked just as ridiculous, with my brows furrowed and my tongue sticking out. We stared at each other, and then we both burst out laughing. We cackled and wheezed, rolling around on the floor. And for the first time in a while, we laughed. Tears of joy filled my eyes until my vision went blurry. It was just like how it used to be. Flashback. Denki's hair bounced as he ran down the track. Side by side, we participated in the three-legged race. He huffed, sweat glistening on our faces as we raced on that hot summer day. Denki and I jumped toward the finish line, landing in the vibrant green grass. We looked at our tied legs, then at each other. Denki's brows were furrowed, and his tongue was out as he panted, sweat dripping down his flushed face. We both cracked a smile, and before we knew it, we were rolling around, cackling and wheezing. We always used to do this together, laughing like maniacs no matter the circumstances. But then, Denki had to go on a trip. He left for America with his dad that summer, the first summer I was all alone without my beloved friend. We weren't soulmates yet. That's when I met him. His stunning red eyes caught me off guard as I entered the UA gates. We were signing up for the UA entrance exam, and we just clicked. Flashback over. Our soul string appeared after the exam, and before I knew it, my best friend was gone. But that night, when I cut our soul string without his permission, I wasn't sure I had done the right thing anymore. Denki abruptly stopped laughing, a betrayed look replacing his joyous smile. "I'm gonna get some fresh air." With that, he disappeared up the stairs, leaving me all alone. I laughed so hard my stomach started to hurt, wiping tears from my eyes. Denki, the unwelcome voice, cooed in my head. My smile faded, and I prayed that this wasn't who I thought it was. "Go to the roof. I want to tell you something." "Rei?" I thought. She was supposed to go away if I talked to Kirishima alone. Promised me. "Do it. Do it now or you'll never know what I was going to tell you." I walked away from Kirishima, stopping in front of the staircase. "I'm going to get some fresh air." I kicked open the door, the emergency exit sign flickering in red light. I sat on the edge of the rooftop and sighed, my hair dripping wet once again. "What do you want, Rei? Did you feel pain when your string was cut?" "No." "What does that matter anyway?" I rolled my eyes, taking in the city skyline that was barely visible, partially hidden by the fog. "Well, allow me to tell you about what happened when Bakugo and Izuku cut their string." Kirishima's POV. It had been at least half an hour, and Denki still hadn't come back inside. What if he catches a cold? I went up the stairs, a few of them crumbling on the sides as I stepped on them. I shoved my body against the rusty door, forgetting I couldn't use my quirk in the BST. Rubbing my forming bruise, I walked through the door, caught off guard by the heavy rain and the wind whistling in my ear. "Denki? Denki, where are you?" Kirishima called out into the rain for the yellow-haired boy. "You." Denki growled, standing up from his spot on the edge of the roof. "Oh, there you are. What are you doing up here? You're getting even more soaked." "You be yesterday." Kirishima flinched at the sudden yell, shock washing over him. "All this time? What? Bro, what are you?" "Don't call me bro." Kirishima recoiled, shocked since this was the first time he had ever heard his best friend raise his voice like that. "Denki, are you okay? he shouted across the concrete roof, slowly making his way toward the yellow-haired boy. Kirishima struggled not to topple over as he walked, having nothing to hold on to against the harsh winds. "No! Stay away!" Denki shouted, thunder rumbling ominously in the distance. Denki was shaking with emotion, tears streaming down his face. "All this time? What are you talking about, bro?" Thunder struck again right behind Denki as he marched toward Kirishima, his feet splashing harshly in the puddles. He grabbed Kirishima by the collar of his shirt, ifisng the cloth tightly. Now that he was up close, Kirishima could see how much his friend was trembling and could tell the difference between the tears and the rain pelting them from all directions. "You're my best friend. You can tell me what's wrong, I'll understand." Kirishima shouted, competing with the loud downpour and thunder cracking in the distance, seemingly growing more violent by the second. He felt the grip on his shirt tighten as Denki's knuckles turned white. Deku felt pain when they cut their string because he was suffering from one-sided love. Kirishima stayed silent, confused why Denki would bring up something so random. "So then why?" Kirishima leaned in, anticipation growing with every flash of lightning in the distance. "Why didn't I feel pain too?" "Clear!" the doctor yelled, sweat dripping from her forehead. The heart rate monitor didn't budge. 3, 2, 1. "Clear!" the doctor screamed, tears filling her eyes. The blonde-haired boy's heart stopped beating as he stared at the monitor, tears filling his eyes. "But who is in the hospital bed?" "Guess you'll have to read to find out." While the blonde ex-soulmate screamed, emotions pouring from every part of his trembling body, another duo started a chase that would lead to a tragedy none of them would be able to forget. Deku's POV. This is happening while Denki and Kirishima were climbing up the stairs. Kaken crumbled to the floor, tears flooding from his ruby-red eyes. I held back my emotions as best as I could, but seeing him like this broke my heart. "Ray!" I whispered. I waited but got no response. "Ray!" I aggressively whispered. "She isn't responding?" She usually is so quick to respond. Unless she's busy with someone else. She told me she was the devil of heartbreak, which must mean it's not only me that she talks to. She must talk to other people too, right? I grabbed the blonde's shoulder and took a deep breath, hoping my guess was correct. What did I miss? I ripped my hand away, sprinting as fast as I could. Tears started streaming down my face, but I ignored them like I always do and kept running. "I miss him. I miss him so much. Kaken, I miss you. I'm so sorry I can't talk to you." I turned around to see if he was following me, but I checked too late. I was tackled from behind and lost my footing, sending me crashing into a dense bush of vines sprouting from the cracked pavement. "Do you think this is a joke?" His scream echoed through the fake city, the rippling puddles below reflecting the scene like mirrors. His tears mingled with the raindrops sliding down his face, making it hard to tell between emotions and bad weather. I couldn't help it when tears started to flow from my eyes as well. His expression changed from anger to worry, and he stood up, looking away from me. "Listen, Deku. I don't know why you won't talk to me, but never mind." He started to walk away toward the parking lot structure, and I followed far behind him. I wiped more tears away, and we continued to walk in uncomfortable silence, my eyes glued to the floor pretty much the entire time. Raindrops dripped from my head, and by the time we had gotten back to the parking structure, both Kaken and I were sneezing and coughing. I rubbed my red nose and looked at the ash-blonde boy, worried he would be staring back. Just my luck he was. A single tear rolled down my face. "I can't do this. I have to leave. Run away. Run away from my problems like I always do." And just like that, I was sprinting down the stairs. Puddles splashed beneath me, and the pouring rain blurred my vision. I rubbed my eyes, hoping to see the buildings before me more clearly, but alas, it didn't help at all. The rain was coming down so hard that I considered hiding in a building, but I needed to keep moving before my thoughts could catch up to me. "You, get back here." I glanced behind me but only saw the silhouette of a certain spiky-haired boy. I sped into the nearest building, a tall skyscraper that I couldn't see the top of through all the fog. Maybe I could lose him while going up the stairs. I sprinted inside, my feet landing in a foot of water covering the first floor. I ran as fast as I could through the flooded area and climbed as high as the building would go. Bakugo's POV. F-. I yelled, looking around my blurred, foggy surroundings. I had lost him in the rain. I cursed to myself, kicking a puddle and gesturing angrily at the sky. That's when I saw the tiniest splash of water leading to the entrance of a building. Bingo. I ran inside, not hesitating to sprint toward the stairs. My foot caught on something heavy, and I tripped, falling face-first into the water. "What the heck?" I exclaimed, noticing a jug of water half submerged. I rolled my eyes and ran up the stairs, hearing frantic footsteps coming from the flight of stairs above me. "I've got you now." Deku's POV. I panted, completely out of breath. My chest heaving, I made it to the final floor and burst through the door. A red exit sign was barely hanging on, flickering dimly. My back was to the roof as my eyes were fixed on the door. What will I do when he comes through that door? I hadn't planned for him to follow me, but here we were, and any second now he would break down that door, and I would be. Midoriya? I whipped my head around and saw Kirishima and Denki, both soaked and visibly shaken. Denki was trembling, and Kirishima looked unsettled. I glanced at Denki and my eyes widened. His usual cheerful smile was gone, replaced by a scowl. He marched up to me, grabbing me by the collar. Lightning flashed behind him and I gasped. He dragged me over to the edge of the building. "This is your fault. I'm so sorry for the strange chapter earlier. For those who read it, I'm rewriting it now so you can enjoy the real version. I had finished writing the entire chapter, but it got deleted before I posted it. I appreciate your understanding." Denki's POV. I was crying and shaking uncontrollably. Kirishima looked stunned, but I could barely see through the pouring rain. Just as I was about to yell again, I heard the door burst open. There stood a familiar figure, her hair white and her dress flowing. It was Rei. I scowled. All of this was her fault. Every single moment during this test had been her doing. I marched up to her, grabbing her by the collar and pulling her toward the edge of the building. "Denki," she wheezed, her voice sounding strained. I tightened my grip, and she gasped. "Please," she pleaded, frantically trying to free herself from my hold. "This is all your fault. Deku, where the hell did you?" "Deku." I released Rei, and she stumbled dangerously close to the edge. That wasn't Rei. The illusion the demon had planted in my mind faded, revealing the true person who was falling from the building. Izuku. Midoriya. Deku's POV. Isn't it strange how quickly life can change? Just like that, your world could go dark. You would never see your mother's beautiful smile again or the lovely ruby-red eyes of your soulmate. I watched my tears float above me as I fell from the skyscraper. I heard cries of despair, but everything was a blur. By the time I realized what was happening, it was already too late. Bakugo's POV. "Clear," the doctor shouted, sweat dripping from her forehead. I pressed my face against the glass separating me from the emergency room, my tears staining the surface as I desperately wiped them away. The heart rate monitor remained still. 3, 2, 1. "Clear," the doctor yelled, tears filling her eyes. Nothing. She looked grimly at the boy in the hospital bed and began to hand the defibrillator to another woman when I pounded on the glass, trying to get her attention. I mouthed please, wiping away more tears. A tear fell down her face as she nodded, snatching the machine back. "Clear." My heart stopped as I stared at the monitor, tears streaming down my face. Beep, beep, beep. If you guessed Deku would be the one in the hospital bed, congratulations. Kaminari's POV. Ambulances, sirens, police officers, and doctors shouting at one another. Bakugo's sobs filled the air. It was overwhelming. The rain suddenly stopped, leaving the city illuminated by bright fluorescent lights that felt artificial compared to the realistic storm that had just passed. I covered my ears, trying to block out the chaos, tears streaming down my face. Who is responsible for this? I heard one man say, grimly watching a certain green-haired boy being loaded into an ambulance. Everyone turned to me, Bakugo and Kirishima narrowing their eyes. I saw Kirishima take a shaky breath, probably about to speak, but I cut him off. Me. The sound of HNDCFFS made my heart drop. I heard a gasp behind me. I knew it was Kirishima. I thought about protesting, but even if I told them about the lady in white, they wouldn't believe me. All it would do is confirm their suspicions that I was losing my mind. They led me to the black and white car I had always loved to see chasing bad guys in films, but now it felt terrifying. I took a deep breath, surrendering to my fate. Bakugo's POV. If only. I know, baby. I felt his hand rubbing comforting circles on my back. I would have pushed him away, but instead, I let him continue to try to soothe me. A week had passed since Izuku. I tried to unleash an explosion, but this court-canceling room really worked. I was sent here to calm down after setting my dorm room on fire 3 times in a fit of rage, but my thoughts kept swirling inside me. It felt like I was trapped in a maze. Every corner I turned revealed a new horror, a new monster to face. There was no end to the maze, nor to the monsters. These monsters were my feelings. I had neglected them for so long that they built up until there was nowhere left to run. I was backed into a corner. If only I had reached him a little sooner. If only I had run a little faster. If only I had acted a little quicker. Maybe, just maybe, Deku would still be here by my side. The room was cold, the air heavy with the musty smell of mildew. I wanted nothing more than for this nightmare to end. Every night, I spent crying in my cell, slowly losing my mind. Maybe I was losing it. Maybe the lady in white was something I had imagined. She probably didn't even exist. I slammed my head against the wall, tears dripping onto the cold concrete. But why did it have to turn out this way? I hadn't been able to talk to anyone outside of the police department. No news on Midoriya. He could be gone for all I knew. Another tear fell. I could be a murderer. Maybe I did belong here, among the thieves and criminals. The murderers and the worst of society. I laughed to myself. No, I laughed at myself. I was pathetic. What would Kirishima say? My heart skipped a beat as I thought of his beautiful smile, beaming at me as we laughed in that skyscraper. But my momentary happiness was quickly replaced by the memory of his face when Midoriya was taken away in that ambulance. The sadness, the grief, the horror. Then came more tears. I pounded my fists against the wall until I could feel the bruises forming. I needed to feel something else, pain or maybe even anger. But I couldn't stand feeling love. Not anymore. Out of nowhere, the speaker crackled, and I jumped, wiping my bleary eyes. You have a visitor. It must be another detective. My anxiousness grew with every step I took toward the prison. I kept my eyes glued to the floor, my earbuds blasting music. I was worried about Denki, worried about my boyfriend. Boyfriend? Why did it feel wrong? Was it because Denki was in jail? My heart skipped a beat. Boyfriend. I clutched my sweatshirt until my knuckles turned white. It felt as if I let go, I would float away. My racing heart calmed, and I sighed, releasing the worn fabric of my favorite yellow sweatshirt. Bakugo is my boyfriend. And there it was again, that sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach, as if my soul was rejecting my words. I corrected myself, testing my resolve. Denki is my boyfriend. Instantly, my stomach flipped, butterflies fluttering, cheeks flushing, heart racing all at once. I gulped hard and looked up, realizing I had already arrived at the prison. The receptionist handed me a slip of paper, and I thanked her before reading it as I walked down the hall. Some police officers chatted idly, scattered about the room. 3rd floor. I muttered, my eyes scanning the yellowish paper. I stepped into the elevator, which felt so small compared to the large one we rode in during the BST. The skyscraper. I shook my thoughts away. It was as if every thought led back to him. Bakugo. Boyfriend. Training. It was a vicious cycle I wished to escape. Everywhere I looked, something reminded me of him, his lightning bolt hair, his cute little smile. Denki, Denki, Denki. I slapped myself, detouring into the nearest bathroom. The dark blue tiled interior was dull, and I shivered from the cold. I walked to the faucets and stared long and hard at the man in the mirror. Is this really who I was meant to be? Is this really who I want to be? My eyes fell to the string around my finger, glowing bright red as always. The longer I stared at it, the uglier it seemed. I frowned, looking away and turning on the water. I splashed my face, relaxing at the cold water hitting my warm skin. I shook my head rapidly, shooing away doubts and worries, and stepped out the door. It's time to visit Denki. It's a detective, isn't it? I sighed as I was led to the visiting room by 3 police officers. They said nothing. I frowned, realizing they didn't know me. All they knew was that I might have killed someone. Probably not the best reputation to have. I really hoped Midoriya was okay. A tear ran down my cheek, and I sniffled, wiping it away with the bend of my arm. The metal cuffs jingled, and the officer in front of me glared before unlocking the dull gray door. I sat down, facing a glass window with a telephone set up next to it. The phone was bright red, a color that reminded me of something I would never have again, a glowing soul string. I glared at the telephone before picking it up, closing my eyes with the false hope that I could fall asleep before the detective arrived. I couldn't bear another traumatic interview with a reporter or another detective asking for details when all I wanted was to forget they ever existed. I could already feel myself tearing up. Denki? I froze. That voice. To was. Kirishima? I whispered, testing whether this was a dream or reality. Because if this was a dream, nobody wake me up. Kirishima, oh God, Kirishima, I started to cry, tears blurring my vision. Kirishima, please help me. I think I'm going insane. I need to know. Midoriya is okay. I sighed shakily, collapsing into a ball. Hey, it's okay, Denki. Everything's going to be all right. All Might said he would come and get you as soon as he could, which might even be later today. I unfurled from my ball, wiping tears from my face. Sniffling, I inhaled, about to speak when Kirishima started to talk before I could get the words out. Denki, I don't know what's happening to me, and I need advice from my best bro, of course. I frowned, but at least I was talking to him, right? Sure, what's up, bro? Kirishima inhaled, his breath audible even over the poor quality phone. I thought I loved someone, but I think maybe I started to love someone else. I want to stay loyal to this person, but something inside me won't let me rest easy without the other person. I feel stressed, angry, tired. I'm tired of lying to myself, bro. Kirishima's POV. Tears threatened to spill, but I held them back, pushing them down. So many emotions swirled inside me, it was almost too much to handle. Somehow, I just barely held on. That is until I lifted my head and looked through the glass. His smile was so warm and reassuring that the tears fell before I even realized it. I'm sure you can and will work it out. No matter what, I'll always be there for you by your side, bro. No, that's wrong. Everything's wrong. I can't just stand by and keep my feelings locked up, even if it means someone gets hurt. I give up. I abruptly stood up, slamming my hands on the table. What? He shouted, a mix of worry and sadness in his voice. All this time, I've been trying to keep loving someone I don't. I thought as long as I could fake it well enough, it could still be true love, but in reality. He pulled out a pair of kitchen scissors and revealed the glowing red string, the knot in the center visible. I love you, Denki Kaminari. With a decisive motion, he cut the string. Chapter end. Bakugo's POV. But why couldn't it have been me? Why must fate be so cruel? It gives you something you love, then takes it away just like that. The thing you love most in the world is stolen right from under you, and there's nothing you can do about it. You may come in now. I was snapped out of my thoughts by a familiar doctor. Her face was calm, but her eyes told a different story. She was sad. They say the eyes are the windows to the soul, yet I never saw how Deku truly felt. I thought I was reading him like an open book, but I was wrong. I never noticed the signs that he was struggling. Tears slid down my cheeks, and I tried to wipe them away, reluctant to show any weakness. Pathetic, I muttered, shifting my teary gaze from the doctor to the floor. I felt arms around me, a female voice offering soothing words. She rubbed my back gently, hushing me. It's okay to feel afraid. My tears flowed freely, my reluctant sniffles turning into cries of anguish. Sobs racked through my body, but she held on, brushing her fingers through my hair. After a few minutes, I calmed down, wiping the leftover tears from my face. Unfortunately, the patient's mother is not picking up her cell phone. What is your relationship to the patient? I furrowed my brows. What is my relationship with Izuku? Are we friends? Enemies? Ex-soulmates? Struggling teens fighting for a place in the world? We are friends. The doctor raised an eyebrow, probably wanting to question my answer but decided not to push it. Good idea, doctor. The bright fluorescent lights lined the ceiling of the long, white hallway. My wet sneakers squeaked with every step I took. For the most part, it was quiet, the only sounds being the occasional door opening or a receptionist's phone ringing. Sniffle, I looked to my right and saw a young girl with white hair, a single horn poking out from under it. Tears rolled down her face, reminding me very much of Deku when he was younger. I crouched down, soothingly combing my hand through her hair. I hugged her, letting her cry into my shoulder. What's wrong, little girl? I asked, uncharacteristically gentle. Papa got in an accident with a car and a villain. The building fell and then the window. The glass. I tried to help but he tried to save. I shouldn't have. Hey, it's okay. Your papa will be all right. I hushed her as she hiccuped, more tears rolling down her little face. It'll be okay. I cupped her cheeks in my large hands, wiping her tears away. Because I am here. Since you are the only one who seems to be concerned for the boy at the moment, I'll tell you the news. Please pass it on to the boy's mother when you get back to the school. She will want to know what her son has been hiding. She opened a door labeled, "Do not enter." Immediately, I was hit with the strong smell of hand sanitizer and LTX. In the corner of the room was a lone standing blue curtain, the only thing separating me from him. I choked on my breath, a sinking feeling steadily increasing within me. The doctor pulled the curtain back. Deku looked normal, sort of. He had bandages wrapped around his head, along with a cast on his neck, arm, and seemingly his leg. His body was covered up to his chest, so I couldn't truly tell if it was a cast under that blanket. Though it seemed like it since one leg was poking out far more than the other. But wouldn't he have broken both legs? The doctor gripped the corner of the blanket, taking a deep breath. Do you happen to know who this boy's soulmate used to be? I stayed silent, not wanting to talk about soulmates. She slowly peeled back the white hospital blanket. Tears started to run down my face. Deku's arm, part of his chest, legs, and part of his stomach were faded completely. My jaw dropped, and the room started to spin. I don't understand. Why didn't he tell me? Anger, rage, sadness, regret, it all washed over me too fast for me to process what was happening. The world became a blur, and I stumbled, holding on to the curtain pole for dear life. All this time, he was fading. He was going through it all alone. He was going to disappear without telling anyone where he was going or what was going on. He would have left me without even saying goodbye. I squeezed my eyes shut, my mind shouting all my unspoken thoughts at me. All of the memories, all of the moments, all of the feelings came rushing back to me. My stomach twisted uncontrollably, and I gagged at the very thought of losing Deku. Spinning, spinning, spinning. The room went round and round. I yanked at my hair, hoping it would stop when all of a sudden, everything was still. I was in the same hospital room, but the doctor was gone. The neat sheets were on the floor, the body they were covering, gone. Opened the door. The hallway was bustling with doctors, running frantically around. Where is patient 103? I can't find him. Look over there. Call the police. I turned around, looking at the door I had just walked out of. Door number. He can't be up from his bed. His fading will get faster. The last words hung in my head as the world started to spin once more. When I opened my eyes, I was on the roof. Not of the hospital, though, but the roof of our school. My soul string lifelessly swayed in the wind, its red glow gone. There he stood. His green hair rustled with each passing breeze. His soul string waved in the wind, but it had turned gray and lost its glow. Only now could I clearly make out his blue hospital gown. Half his body was fading as well as his arm, fading into nothing. He turned around and smiled a genuine smile. How is he standing without any legs? Hello, Kaken. He waved and beckoned me to come stand next to him. He leaned his arms against the railing and looked out into the distance. I'm glad I'll get to be with you in my final moments, Kaken. My legs felt like they were glued to the floor. I tugged at them, wanting to stand next to the green-haired boy. But when I looked up, it wasn't Deku. It was a white-haired woman. Every day, all I can hear is crying, faint echoes of sobs. Everything is black, void of anything but myself and a glowing white figure in the distance. I tried to get to it, but whenever I tried to run, my feet seemed to be stuck to the floor. They felt weighed down to the point where I couldn't even move them. Tears started to fall as the figure looked to be moving away from me. I called out for it, my tears dripping off my face and into the pitch-black darkness that surrounded me. I didn't know much, but I did know that white figure was the only light in the darkness. I curled up, giving in to the dark when I saw a bright light. Over and over, this vision would repeat, but no matter how hard I tried, I could never turn around fast enough to see the glowing figure up close. I cried and shouted, hoping to catch its attention, but to no avail. Until now. When my vision restarted, everything was the same until I was about to curl into a ball. The figure started growing larger as it approached me, swiftly gliding over the darkness. To us. Ray. I lifted my fists, ready to confront her, but I stopped right before I hit her when I noticed. She had black tears running down her face. Izuku, she whispered, shaking slightly. Please release me from the darkness. She reached behind her and pulled out a jagged knife with a ruby on the hilt. I'm sick of this. I'm sick of watching beautiful couples splitting apart. I'm sick of all the anger and the sadness. I used to do this because my memories of my past were erased. Everything was erased except for my hatred, my anger, my fury. But when I saw you in Bakugo, oh God, my memories started to come back. My memories of my kind friends. Inko's smile. Mitsuki's laugh. Everything came back to me, and I can't live on knowing that I tore you two apart. Please, Izuku. She pressed the knife flat against my chest and it dropped into my hands. Please release me from the darkness. I examined the knife, glancing back and forth between it and Ray. Her black tears stained her porcelain white skin, each drop staining her white dress a little more black. I will grant you a wish. Even if it doesn't seem like it, I will hear it and I will grant it. She moved her arms to the side, exposing her chest. Ray, please apologize to Bakugo, Denki, and Kirishima. Say that I'm sorry for all I have done and I accept all the hatred they will surely send toward me. Ray, please. And most of all. She held my empty left hand, wiping her tears on her sleeve. I'm sorry, Izuku. Swiftly, she moved herself onto the knife, a smile on her face. Her tears shimmered and she burst into a blinding light. I squeezed my eyes shut, and when I opened them, I found myself no longer in darkness. I was in a hospital. I looked around, blinking at the bright lights all around the room. It was all white with hints of light blue and brown. Brown? There was a mop of messy chocolate-colored hair sprawled out on the side of my bed. Uraraka? Her head shot up, revealing that she had been crying before she fell asleep. With puffy pink eyes, she wrapped her arms around me, crying softly onto my shoulder. Her words were a jumble of, I'm sorry, and I missed you. I chuckled, holding her in my arms until her sobs turned into gentle hiccups. A soft snore caught my attention, and I looked over Uraraka's shoulder. His spiky blonde hair was unmistakable. I hushed Uraraka, and she stopped talking, following my gaze to the sleeping Bakugo. Oh, Bakugo has been here for 3 weeks now. He refuses to leave, and whenever someone tries to talk him into leaving, he gets really angry. Only then did I notice the sheer amount of pizza boxes, Tupperware, burger wrappers, and bento boxes sprawled out all over the floor. He was here for 3 weeks? He missed 3 weeks of training. For me? Before I knew it, tears were running down my face, and I whispered to Uraraka, wiping my tears away. I need your help. She pet her head, confused by what I meant. I have to get to the school. The school roof, actually. But I don't think I can walk. I need you to float me to the school. Uraraka didn't protest and nodded, a tear rolling down her cheek. I'll do it for you, Deku. She grabbed my hand and walked to the door, floating me above her as she reached for the door handle. Wait! I whispered urgently, noticing Bakugo starting to stir. If I go out, the doctors will stop me from leaving. Is it possible to get out of that window? She thought for a moment before walking me over to the window. Deku. Yes. We are 4 stories up. I pondered for a moment, thinking of a way to get down without either of us getting hurt. Why don't we fall until we're close to the ground, then you can float us both so we can land safely? Her mouth dropped open, eyes wide. Are you kidding me, Deku? I stood up on the ledge of the open window, waiting for her to join me. Please, Uraraka, I don't have much time. She tensed at my mention of time. She probably knew already, anyway. She shakily sighed, another tear running down her cheek. She squeezed my hand and joined me on the windowsill. Jump. Our journey to the ground brought back memories of falling off that skyscraper, the rain, the tears, the screams. I shook my head, hoping those thoughts would fade away, and before I knew it, we were floating a few feet above the concrete parking lot. Thank you, Uraraka. I smiled at her, and she weakly smiled back. You're very welcome, Izuku. Our walk to UA was filled with laughter as we reminisced about our favorite memories. Or that time Denki laughed so hard that noodles came out of his nose. We laughed until our stomachs ached and tears formed in the corners of our eyes. But as the gates of UA came into view, the laughter ceased. These were indeed the gates that contained all of my dreams for the future that I feared I might never have. Uraraka sneaked me up to the roof, giving me one last squeeze before leaving me alone as I wished her to. Bakugo's POV. Where is patient 103? I can't find him. Look over there. Call the police. I already knew what was happening, but now I noticed the window was open. Did he jump out of the window? I blasted off out of the window, explosions booming behind me. I can't let it happen. I won't let it happen. My hands started to cramp, and I fell to the floor, tumbling onto the concrete sidewalk. I grabbed my phone and called Kirishima, sprinting towards UA. Kirishima. I'm sorry, Bakugo, about your string, I really am. I should have asked you first. That wasn't very manly of me. What? I looked down at my hand, my soul string lifeless and gray. Has Deku been to school today? No, but I saw Uraraka come in, and her eyes looked super puffy like she. Beep. I hung up, having heard all I needed to. My legs burned as I raced up the stairs, the familiar burn reminding me of things I didn't want to remember. As usual, I paid no mind to them. But this time, I didn't deny that I was running to Deku because I cared about him. I really do care. Maybe I care a little too much. I slammed my body into the door, the pain washing over me, numbed by the growing feeling of regret. Regret for hurting Izuku. Regret for looking down on him. Regret for abandoning him. Regret for rejecting my feelings towards him that I probably would have kept bottled up if he wasn't. A tear ran down my cheek. There he was, standing there, leaning against the silver railing of the roof. He beckoned me to stand next to him, smiling at me with a genuine smile. There were no signs of tears, no signs that he had been crying. I stumbled over to him, collapsing into his shoulder. As you please? You can't leave me in this world of idiots. My tears stained his blue hospital gown, and he sighed, running his fading hand through my hair. Kaken, I'm glad I'll get to be with you in my final moments. I cried harder, my tears blurring my view of his green mop of hair. Everything washed over me at once: memories, pain, anger, sadness, but most of all, regret. I tried to speak, but nothing would come out. The warm breeze rustled his hair, and his emerald eyes reflected the sun. He looked out into the distance, smiling at the view. Tell my mom. No. Don't you dare finish that sentence, DNIT. That I love her and... I said don't. My voice cracked and I grabbed him by the collar, but my weak grip could barely hold the fabric. Tell the love of my life that I love him so much. Please, Izu. My voice cracked even more, and I held onto his hand for dear life. Tell him that I've always loved him and I'll never stop. Hoping, praying that it would stop him from leaving. At this point, words wouldn't even form in my mouth. All the things I wanted to say in that moment were tangled up in my throat, struggling to escape, but the only words that came out were, "Who?" He chuckled softly, his laughter fading as he seemed to dissolve into a flurry of sakura petals, swept away by the wind. "No," I murmured, tugging at my hair as I sank to the floor. That was the last time I would ever hear his laugh. "Izuku," I shouted, my voice echoing through UA, startling everyone around me. I could hear them rushing in through the door, but I barely noticed. All I could think about was how I never got the chance to tell him that I loved him too. 127 years later, I walked in, my soulmate shellament glowing bright red. It was the 5-year anniversary of Izuku's disappearance. Everyone was smiling, and they said that Izuku would want me to smile for him. I found that hard to believe. I had been training harder than ever, pushing myself to the limit. I even had to visit the doctor after I strained a muscle during a 10-hour workout on the day he vanished. They asked me if it hurt, but it didn't. I hadn't felt anything since he disappeared. No sadness, no joy, not even anger. Everything was just so dull, so numb. Deku's POV. Am I dead? Tears floated up from my eyes instead of falling like they should have. Stars and planets lit up the void around me, twinkling and sparkling. I smiled at the sight but realized that it meant I truly was gone. Suddenly, a large screen lit up in front of me. It showed my funeral, and I watched day after day for 1,825 days as my mother cried, my classmates mourned, and Kaken grieved. Everything blurred together as time passed, and occasionally, I found myself forgetting my own name. But the part one remembered most clearly was what Kaken said when I disappeared. He said he loved me too. An unfamiliar ache filled my heart, but it wasn't physical like before, it was emotional. More tears flowed from my eyes. God, I want to go back so badly. I want to see my friends and my mom, my Kaken. As you wish, Izuku. Bakugo's POV. Class, I have an announcement. I looked up at Aizawa. Even he had a smile on his face, probably for Izuku. I am excited to announce that a new student will be transferring into this class, so please treat him well. Though I already know you all will. I rolled my eyes and opted to stare out of the window instead. Probably just another clueless kid. I heard the door slide open and footsteps enter. Everyone gasped and a few started to cry. I rolled my eyes one last time before looking over. Holy cow. My name is Izuku Midoriya, I think. Nice to meet you all. Everyone stood up, ready to give him a hug, but I beat them to it, wrapping my arms around his small frame. He giggled, rubbing my back as tears fell from my eyes. I love you too, Kaken. The end. I really hope you all like this story. Thank you for all the wonderful comments you've left me. I feel a bit sad that I won't be writing this anymore, but I have a new book coming up soon, so stay tuned. See you in my next story.